Okay, so at the time of recording this, I have no clue when this video is gonna come out. I'm gonna be so real with you. I wish I could tell you, but like this video is almost 5 hours long, so give or take how long this shit's gonna take. Um, so this video was supposed to come out a long time ago, which I do apologize for that. Basically, I had exams to study for, along other things to do, so I kind of got time taken up. I'm currently in college now, so I don't have to worry about that shit anymore. But point is, a lot was going on, so for that, I do apologize for not dropping this sooner. But just know, if you're seeing this, it's out now, and I'm very grateful. After this, I think I'm going to take a little break from doing Darbo and Picky content and focus on movie reviews. Um, Also, if you're seeing this, there's a movie review out on my channel, and that movie review did well. It did great. So, and when I did that poll, it asked, hey, like I asked, if you guys wanted to see more movie reviews, and most of you guys said yes. So, I'm gonna be doing a little bit of movie reviews and some other stuff for a while. So don't get me wrong, I'm still gonna release Diary of Wimpy Kid, I'm still gonna do LLBs. Like I can't give up on that, but I'm also gonna be also predominantly doing more reviews. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Second thing, this video kinda ends on a cliffhanger because yeah, there's just no more parts after this. I mean it's kinda bittersweet, but regardless, I know that you guys will still enjoy it. Alright, I'm yapping too much. Let's just get into the video.
First of all, let me get something straight. My name is Emmanuel Heffley, not Manny. Manny was only my childhood nickname and I refuse to refer to myself by that name again. Now that I got that out of the way, let me begin by telling you guys the story of why I bought this crappy dollar store journal to begin with. I'm kind of a felon right now, and if I ever get caught, this is likely what I will use to defend myself. If you knew about what had been going on for the last couple of weeks, you would understand. I was thinking about a lot of things yesterday, and after a heavy night of drinking, I was starting to feel pretty dumb. The same frustrating question kept repeating in my mind over and over again. I took 3 weeks off of work and went to a state I promised I'd never go back to just for this bullshit? I decided that I would go over to the cemetery again, except this time it wouldn't be to burn Frank's grave. I was gonna find Greg's. Except I couldn't find the damn thing anywhere. I even went all out and bought a blowtorch this time. And here I was walking in circles carrying this thing around like some idiot who was just asking to get caught. I eventually stopped when I passed my dad's grave for the 5th time. I just stood there, looking at it. All the times I needed Greg in my life, he was never there for me. I would just be ignored, and every problem I had lead back to Frank's own doing. And now here I am in that same situation. Not even my brother's grave wants anything to do with me. I aim my blowtorch towards Frank's grave. If you're not burning in hell yet, Dad, you are now. Fuck! I forgot to check if the canister was empty. Not even a single flame would come out. At least no one saw me doing this, or at least that's what I thought. Sir, are you aware that you're committing a serious crime? I panicked and dropped the blowtorch. The entire ground lit up in flames. I guess the canister wasn't completely empty after all. I looked to one small path near me that wasn't yet completely engulfed in flames and ran. I ran as fast as I could. I kept running until I knew I was away from that place for good. I looked behind me for a split second. I could no longer see the cemetery. All I could see was the blur of an orange glow. There was a police station just down the street, and there was no doubt in my mind that they saw what happened. It started to sound like someone was chasing me, so I kept running until I found my way in the middle of the road. I noticed someone driving by who looked really familiar. Was that Roderick? It had to be him. Maybe he could help me get out of this situation. Roderick, stop! The car! It's me, your brother Emmanuel. Fuck off, Manny. I couldn't believe it. He tried to run me over. That piece of shit actually tried to kill me. So much for having a loving family. It's no wonder why Greg killed himself. To make matters worse, it started to rain really hard. At least this meant the fire would clear up. I got up out of the road and started walking until I was away from all the cars and people. I eventually found myself alone in a dark alley. I would find out that it led to a little corner store with a vending machine. A drink was just what I needed right now. I was cold, wet, and could barely walk without limping. But it could have been worse, I guess. At least I didn't get caught, right?
Put your hands up!
Well, fuck. Thankfully, I didn't stay in jail for too long. Bail wasn't cheap, but paying for it was no issue. I mean, I don't mean to brag, but I actually own a pretty successful business in New York, and I managed to save up at least $20,000 in case some kind of emergency happened in the future. It costs just a small portion of that to bail out. I wasn't too worried as I waited to get out of here. All they had to do was call my name and give me back my stuff, and then I would be... Oh no. Well, will you look at who it is? Uncle Joe got a job here about 15 years ago. I forgot all about that. I haven't talked to him in almost a decade. And haven't had a reason to since then. He's a smug asshole who has never done anything but talk shit and make snarky remarks about everyone and everything. Somehow, having to interact with him went even worse than I expected. Listen, Joe, Mom and Roger can't know about this. If you say anything, I'll kill you. So, I see how it is. You can afford $5,000 for bail but couldn't pay $1 to help Frank when he had cancer. And oh, they know. What you did has been all over the news for the last hour. Shit. I wonder what you were doing at the cemetery to accidentally set it on fire. I better not see you around my family again. Lighting a candle, Uncle Joe. I was simply lighting a candle. With a blowtorch. Yes. It didn't matter if I lied or told the truth. Uncle Joe wouldn't listen to anything I said. And this would just go on and on. That wasn't what bothered me, however. What really got on my nerves was that he wouldn't even let me explain myself. No matter how much he tried to justify no matter how much I tried to justify my reasoning, it just all went down to you almost burned down an entire cemetery and Frank would still be alive if you actually helped pay his bills. And you shouldn't have fucking left us like that. Now, those sentences alone didn't upset me. They were true. After all, what really infuriated me and set me off for good was what he said to me when I was walking out the door. Wait, I still have to give you your empty beer bottle. You piece of shit. It's too bad that you weren't the one who killed himself. The world would be better off losing you instead of Greg, but no, you're not like him. I guess you never learned that the world doesn't actually revolve around you, huh? I stopped walking for a moment and looked around me. When I saw that no one was looking, I threw the bottle at Joe's face as hard as I could and made a run for it. To the perspective of someone who only knows about the recent stuff I did, or of someone who is in my family. What Joe said might seem justifiable, but if you knew about the other thing that happened over a decade ago, you would understand. I continued running until I made my way back to the same alley I was at before. Still sore, exhausted, and intoxicated, I tried to process everything that just occurred. I hit my Uncle Joe in the head with a glass bottle, and I managed to say it out loud through all the panting and wheezing. Uncle Joe, a cop. I'm going to be in even more trouble now than I was in before. I knocked him out pretty good too. He fell straight to the ground. Looking back, he should have seen that coming years ago. I decided to sit down behind a row of garbage cans. No one was gonna find me here. For a moment, I was alone, away from everything and everyone. The hate and alcohol-driven numbness that I was feeling earlier was beginning to wear off. I started to think about all the stuff that happened in the past week. Why did I ever come back to Plainville? All I did by coming back here was dig up something that should have been buried and set on fire ages ago. Just like how I feel right now. Just like how I felt my whole life. Like I've been buried alive and set on fire. Except there is no rain to come down and put it out this time. The rain never comes. The rain never comes and the flame never goes away. It just keeps growing and growing and destroys a sector or a new sector of your life each time it grows. And it's never what you expect it to destroy. There's never a way to prepare for it. But just like my old friend Abby would say, at least I have some kind of light that shines. God, I wish she was still here with me. I'm not religious or anything, but if there really is an afterlife, then I'm pretty sure that I'm going to hell. But you know what the worst part about that is? The worst part about going to hell isn't that I'm going to hell. It's that I know my dad will be there. And I'll be there with him for eternity. I can't imagine any worse of an outcome than that. Uncle Joe will probably be there too when he dies. Ugh. I began to think about this further when I suddenly saw something shiny lying on the ground beneath a bunch of garbage. I picked it up. It was a diamond ring. How did this get here, and why does it look so familiar? I stayed at the alley for the rest of the night. I fell asleep with the ring still clutched in my hand. Something about it just felt so comforting. I started to dream peacefully, old memories of my early childhood, before it turned into the train wreck it is now. For the first moment in so long, all of the warmth and comfort came back to me. I had forgotten what that it was like. You know, the warm, tender feeling of security and affection. The feeling that you were loved and that everything would be okay no matter what happened. I forgot what it was like to feel these things. Forgot how much I longed for them to come back. Silly bear yawning, silly bear sad, silly bear sleeping, silly bear glad. The end. But that dream would quickly ascend into a nightmare, because with the past also comes the future, and with the future comes a reality that rips every last thread of those feelings you had away from you. Get the fuck out of here right now! Get the fuck out of here right now! Manny! You got an F in math again? How can you keep making these same mistakes? You're so smart at home, but it's like in school, you don't even try. I'm trying, Dad, I really am, I promise. Really? Because these grades don't look like it. Don't you even know what the word try means? Before I knew it, my nightmare took me back to something that happened when I was around 7. That was when I got reminded of something that I really didn't want to remember. Hey, Dad, I got an A on my math test today. Can you believe it? Dad? I never did end up showing that test to him. I never got another A in math after that either. Sometimes I wonder if it had anything to do with me not trying hard enough, but another part of me knows he's the reason. Oh God. It's like I can still hear him screaming from all those years ago. Like I can still hear what everything sounded like. The objects being thrown, my brother's cries, the sound of the belt. It all keeps repeating in my head, and it just won't stop. It just keeps echoing in my mind over and over again, louder and louder, until it's defeated me completely and I'm on the floor unable to move. It had gotten to the point where I was lying in a fetal position with my hands over my face, continuously begging for it to stop. Please make it stop. I can't take it anymore. I would rather be anywhere else than have to live through this memory again. Anywhere else. I would even prefer to be dead and burning in hell just like my dad. Anything, just please, for the love of God, make it stop! And suddenly, everything went silent. I opened my eyes again. Oh shit, where am I? Am I in hell? It would turn out that I wasn't alone.
You know exactly where you are, Manny.
I made a mistake wishing for the whole burning in hell like my dad thing. This wasn't what I wanted. This was my worst fear. And I don't know what was more horrifying. The fact that he looked exactly the same as he did in that memory, or that my worst fear had come true. But what I did know was that I had to get out of there, fast. I tried to run away from him, but it was no use.
How does it feel to be in hell, Manny? How does it feel to be dead and have no one in your life miss you? No one is here for you, Manny. No one is ever going to be. You'll never be anything but ignored. Just like how I was to you.
I didn't realize that this was all a horrid nightmare. I would eventually wake up from it. It all felt so real. Too real. It felt like I was stuck in this place for good. And as much as I wanted to stand up to my own father, my worst enemy, as much as I wanted to inflict everything I could on him and express my true feelings for him, what I really thought of him, I somehow found myself unable to say anything. I couldn't even open my mouth. I didn't feel strong or invincible, like how I thought I would feel when I envisioned standing up to him years later. Instead, I just felt small and helpless, just like how I felt when I was 7. Look, Dad, I know none of your sons turned out the way you wanted them to be. And I know when it comes to your expectations, I turned out to be the worst of all 3 of them. But believe me, I tried. Before we had that falling out, I've tried everything I could to make you happy. To actually make you proud of me. But somehow you never saw it. You never saw my efforts as anything more than disappointment. So I gave up on trying. I left you in your own fantasy, away from the reminder of a disappointment that was me. But I guess I did the wrong thing by doing that too, because now here I am in a literal hell. Nothing I ever do is good enough for you, is it, Dad?
Do you want to see what you did by ignoring everyone who loved you? Do you want to know, what happened to them? I'll show you. I'll show you what happened to them. You killed them, Manny. That's what you did.
An overwhelming feeling of dread took over me as I read the names that were on those graves. I knew that whatever he had in mind for me couldn't be anything good. Still unable to say anything, all I could do was stare at those 2 graves until their names burned into my mind, leaving a permanent mark. An unbearable sense of guilt began to grow inside of me the more I looked at them. Seeing my own brother's name was bad enough, but then I saw her name. When I read that name again, it took everything I had not to completely break down inside. I still don't really like talking about what happened to my old girlfriend, Abby. She died a long time ago, and I'll leave it at that. I try to act like I've moved on from what happened and act like my life is different now. But I would be lying if I said that I didn't wish she was still here with me every day. She really did mean everything to me. But my dad never saw her as anything more than an enemy, and a distraction to any chance I could have at succeeding in school. I don't think he ever truly understood the pain I felt from losing her. I don't think anyone in my family really understood each other, for that matter. Maybe if they did, this wouldn't have happened and Greg would still be alive. But just like always, my dad tried to make it my fault, and maybe he was right.
You could have prevented Greg from killing himself. You could have helped him, but you didn't, did you? Of course not. You just chose to keep on ignoring his existence and let him do it without anyone stopping him. There's nothing you can do about that now, Manny. He's dead now. You killed him, just like how you killed Abby, and just like how you killed me. Is this the person you want to be known as? Because this is what will become of you if you keep on hurting the people you love.
I watched as my dad walked towards my own grave. My own grave, reserved for me in hell. It was as if this was what my own life was destined to. As if there was really no escape from the perpetual misery I've been put into for the last 2 decades after all. This was my hell, and there was no way to avoid it. I began to notice a really familiar smell lingering in the air, but I couldn't quite identify what it was. It drove me crazy as I tried to figure it out. It was almost too familiar. My face turned pale when it suddenly occurred to me what it was. Oh fuck, he's got a match.
Do you think people still deserve to love you after what you've done? You've treated everyone you've known like shit and deserted everyone who had the slightest connection to you. What makes you think that you deserve their love? You don't deserve love from anyone. Not even from the person who loved you the most.
After staring at my burning grave for what seemed like an eternity, I looked back to my dad, the person who caused everything to be this way in the first place. The person who's responsible for my misery. I just looked at him, dead in the eyes, hoping that it would at least mean something to him, but he probably didn't even notice. That was when I saw him drop another lit match onto Abby's grave this time. And that was when I finally managed to say something. No! You can't do that! She doesn't deserve it! Thankfully, the grave didn't catch on fire. Something else did, however.
I guess you'd never learned that the world doesn't revolve around you, huh? I guess you never learned that the world doesn't revolve around you. I guess you never the world doesn't revolve around you, huh? There you are. I finally found you.
Emmanuel, what are you doing? Emmanuel! Jesus Christ! I go grocery shopping for 5 minutes and the next thing I know, you're on the news for being arrested. It's like I can't even leave you alone for just 1 moment. Have you been drinking? Jesus! What effect do you think this is going to put on our business? It's like I always have to put out fires for you. Oh shit, I totally forgot about the hotel I was staying in. Or that my friend Wesley was with me. I didn't say anything as I got into Wesley's car. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't. All I could keep thinking about was that nightmare. I don't know how to describe the way it made me feel, but it didn't feel good. I was still holding that ring when I woke up. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I wish I never even picked it up. I took another look at it. How could something give me such a warm and nostalgic feeling yet also bring me so much pain? How could something seem so distant from what I know, yet so familiar? I didn't understand it. I continued to gaze at it, almost as if I was hoping I get some kind of answer from it, even though I knew I wouldn't. It wasn't enough to distract me from the thought of that nightmare. It overtook every other little thought that could have been running through my head at the time, and haunted me the more I continued to think about it. The worst part about it wasn't even the nightmare itself. it was what it made me realize. You know, after my dad died, after the person who brought nothing to my life but absolute goddamn misery died, I thought I would have gained at least some sense of freedom or relief. But I don't feel that way. Instead, I feel trapped. I feel like there have been more chains put on me now instead of them being lifted. I'll never get closure, because the memories my dad gave me have opened up a wound inside of me so large that it's beyond the point of ever closing back up. It's filled me with nothing but pain and emptiness. I can't mourn because with such an open and empty wound inside of you, there is nothing to mourn for. All I can do is continue to suffer in this hell that he put me in, because that's what my dad is. He is my hell. He may be dead now, but the hell that he has brought me into will live on forever. And it's one thing to know that your life is a living hell. It's one thing to know that each day of your life for the past 28 years has been a living hell. But what really crushes you and makes you question hope for good is the realization that there's no way out, even after it seems like the nightmare is over. Okay, I don't know where I am, so I'm gonna have to read that over again. I'll never get closure, because the memories my dad gave me have opened up a wound inside of me so large that it's beyond the point of ever closing back up. It's filled me with nothing but pain and emptiness. I can't mourn because with such an open and empty wound inside of you, there is nothing to mourn for. All I can do is continue to suffer in this hell that he put me in, because that's what my dad is. He is my hell. He may be dead now, but the hell that he has brought me into will live on forever. And it's one thing to know that your life is a living hell. It's one thing to know that each day of your life for the past 28 years has been a living hell. But what really crushes you and makes you question hope for good is the realization that there's no way out, even after it seems like the nightmare is over. I feel like everything in my life just leads back to this. It all leads back to my dad. Yeah, there's my brothers and the rest of my family too, but it's my dad who is the cause of all of this. He's the reason why my life has never been good. He's the reason why I've never been happy. And during the very few moments of my life that I actually do recall being happy, he did everything he could to take that happiness away from me. I used to see my past and my future as two different things that I could easily separate. But now, they don't seem any different from each other at all. I don't know if I have a future. I feel like my future will just be a prolonged version of my past that never ends. A past that is controlled by my dad. And I don't know if I can get away from that. I don't know if I can get away from the memory of my dad. And that's what terrifies me the most. There has to be more to life than this. There has to be more to me as a person than just a victim of my dad's resentment. This can't be all I'll ever be. This can't be all my life will ever be. There has to be a way out somehow. There has to be. I need someone who I can talk to about this. These thoughts are too much for me to handle on my own. I need someone to tell me that things can change, that they will change, because as of right now, the mere idea of that seems impossible. But I know it can't be. Things will have to change eventually, right? It can't just be like this forever, right? Maybe I could talk to Wesley about this. He's been my closest friend since elementary school after all. If anyone knows me better than I do, it's him. Hell, we practically moved to the same state just so we could be together and start our own business. I'm sure he would be supportive. Wait, has he been talking to me this whole time? I just don't know what to do with you anymore. I can't believe what you just did. Do you even think about what the repercussions are or how this will make people see our business? This isn't okay, Emmanuel. Emmanuel, are you listening to me? Emmanuel! Emmanuel! God, I swear it's like you tune me out on purpose sometimes. You didn't hear anything I said, did you?
I'm sorry. Were you talking to me? What were you saying?
Never mind. The flea market is tomorrow morning. You paid the manager so we could set up our booth, right? Don't tell me you forgot about that. Also, those bills were due.
I only caught the last part of what he said before, but the mention of the flea market brought something to my mind that I completely forgot about. Every year in Plainview, there's this flea market held in the old building where Tender Cuddles preschool used to be. Part of why we went back there in the first place was that so we could promote our business somewhere else. And that reminded me, I didn't pay the manager. Shit. I was supposed to do that yesterday before it was too late. And what bills was he talking about? I don't remember having to pay any, right, the electricity bill so our business would still be running while we were gone. Oh, shit.
You forgot to pay, didn't you? Please don't tell me you forgot. Don't you fucking tell me right now that you forgot what I've urgently been asking you to do for the 2 weeks. Don't tell me you forgot about that.
Wesley, I'm sorry. Please, Wesley, just let me...
No! Don't even start that. I'm so fucking mad at you right now. I don't even know what to talk to you. I don't even want to talk to you. No, don't talk to me. Don't fucking talk to me.
I've been at the flea market for an hour now, and it's practically been dead so far. Maybe that's for the better, I tell myself. After all, the last thing I need right now is some random person to recognize me as the guy who was on the news last night for almost burning down a cemetery. But I should probably still be worried. I mean, it typically moves pretty slow in the morning, but now it's almost 12 and we haven't even had a single person buy anything from us, much less approach our booth in the first place. On the bright side, the manager was fine with us paying for a booth at the last minute since it had been so empty. But now I'm starting to question if coming here to sell our products was even worth it, let alone coming to Plainville at all. I should have never gone back to Plainville. Everything is shitty here. And when I say that, I mean everything. The shit that happened to me this past week only proves that. Wesley is still pretty pissed at me, and I don't think the way things are going right here right now is making that any better. The only real communication we even had with each other today was when we stopped at a local 99-cent store before heading here, and I told him I was going to buy this crummy journal. I noticed it just lying there on the store in plain view, like it had been knocked off the shelf it was placed on. I was still trying to process everything that happened the night before, and when I saw that journal, I saw my chance. I needed some way to get these thoughts out of my head. Some way to set my mind at ease from these thoughts that were slowly suffocating me to the point where I couldn't even breathe freely and calmly. I could feel the anger seething through me, latching on to every last nerve in my body, doing everything it could to make sure I couldn't escape from its demeaning presence. I wanted to explode. I wanted to take every perceivable object in front of me and light it on fire, watching it burn until it turned to ashes, completely unrecognizable from the ambiguous thing it once resembled. Just like how I can't resemble what my own life is anymore. But I couldn't do that. I know I couldn't do that. All I could do was sit here
and continue to write in this pointless drivel. And now it's like I can't stop. My mind feels like it's going a mile a minute, yet it also feels frozen in time. Like none of this even matters, yet it also matters. More than anything else. I'll admit I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if this helps, but at least it's something to distract me from the lonesome hellhole I live in. It's been an hour since I've been writing in here to pass the time. An hour I've managed to gather all the thoughts together, and yet I still feel just as hopeless and clueless. Every once in a while, after starting a new sentence, I would turn my head and look over to where Wesley was, and he would glare at me with the most pissed off look on his face. And every time I would do this, he would begin to look more and more pissed off. I don't think he's happy with the lack of people we've had so far, or that he ended up being the one having to pay the electricity bills after they were almost a week due. It doesn't help that we've made practically zero money today. I took out the diamond ring again and placed it over my palm. I didn't do anything with it, but just decided to look at it for a moment. If I were to sell this thing and it turned out to be worth a copious amount of money, would that have made up for what I've done? Would Wesley forgive me? I know it would definitely make up for the lack of money we've received today. I examined it closer. It gave me that same familiar feeling, that same comforting yet enthralling feeling I can't fully bring myself to describe. It seemed to take me back to a different time, a time where my life somehow didn't feel like an eternal affair of sorrow. A time where things felt like they were at ease. I don't know what it was that made my life so different back then. I don't remember. But I do know that this ring is likely the closest thing I'll have to achieving that feeling ever again. And just having it by me feels so nice, so warm, so alleviating. Should I really sell this? A part of me wants to so I can make up for the ways I fucked up yesterday and regained Wesley's trust. But another part of me is desperately screaming inside, begging for me to hold on to it no matter what I do. The problem is, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to have to figure it out soon, likely sooner than I wish. I would turn around to look back at Wesley again, but I know he won't be getting happier anytime soon. I've noticed Wesley slowly change over time into someone noticeably different than the person I knew just a couple of years ago. He's began to act less like a friend towards me and more like an authority figure. For the last few months in particular, it seems like he's only gotten more irritable and stressed out about anything that crosses his path. I do around the same amount of work as him given the partnership we run, and it hasn't gotten any more stressful than usual lately, so I'm not entirely sure where this change in behavior came from. I don't know why he suddenly started to be this way, but I think I have an idea. Sometimes your life feels so bleak and almost nothing makes you happy. You hold on to the very few things that do for as long as you possibly can, and you just keep holding on to them tighter and tighter until they're the only things you have that even matter to you anymore. And anyone questioning your happiness about these things turns you into someone else. You begin to feel insulted to their questioning and become defensive instead, no longer able to see the perspective of the other side. You and the thing you've held on to for so long become one and the same, and everyone and everything seems to try, and everyone and everything else seems to be trying to attack you, trying to make you miserable, when in reality you're the one who is miserable and trying to attack everyone else. I've noticed this pattern affecting me for the last decade, and recently I began to see it affecting Wesley with his
busyness, with his busyness, with his business to a much worse degree. And what hurts the most is that I know there's nothing I can truly do about it. I met Wesley when I was in 2nd grade. Apparently we had met another time before that, but I don't really have any memory of it. I don't really have that many memories of anything from before I was 5, for that matter. Me and Wesley bonded with each other because we would both get in trouble often, and we're always made to sit against the wall at recess instead of actually being able to enjoy it. So we made the best we could out of it together. We eventually became best friends from this as time went on, doing everything you could possibly imagine together. And here we are, still together today. I used to wonder if things would have turned out this way if we weren't such bad kids. But now I realize it wasn't because we were bad kids, it was because all we had were each other. And I would be lying if I said that isn't still the case now. Like I said, Wesley is my closest friend, and probably my only friend, but sometimes I don't know if he understands me. I thought we understood each other when we were younger, but I might not even be right about that when I look back at it now. Lately, I've been starting to get the notion that we're 2 worlds apart, but I'd still try to see those 2 worlds as close enough to where they can still be accompanied by each other in peace, and have been that close for long enough to where it isn't even something to be questioned. Sometimes, however, it is possible for those worlds to collide, and the moment that does happen is when you at least expect it. This is what I'm starting to fear the most, especially now, because without Wesley, the only person I have is myself, and I'm scared of that. I can't be stuck by myself. I can't be stuck in my own thoughts. I can't have that happen to me. I really, really can't, especially not now, after everything that's happened. But the more I begin to think about it, the more I realize how far apart from Wesley I really am. It almost seems like we grow slightly less attached to each other as each year goes by, and it makes the gap that was already between us a lot larger than it was before. Maybe I actually have been by myself this whole time, and I just haven't realized it. Maybe I'm stronger than I think I am. Perhaps I can be completely on my own, even if it's for the rest of my life, for all I know. But the thought of it alone still scares me. I just don't know. Speaking of Wesley, I should probably explain why we ended up going back to Plainville in the first place. I can say right now that it wasn't my idea. I should back this up by explaining that I've owned this business with Wesley. I should back this up by explaining that I've owned this business with Wesley for about 7 years now. He came up with the idea for this business shortly after we got out of high school. When Wesley told me about his plan to move to New York and pursue it in a brand new place, I jumped on board with him almost immediately and haven't looked back or thought about Plainville since, well, until now that is. We named our business Stringley's as a combination of both our last names. We build and sell blowtorches for a living. As a hands-on person who has always been a rather solid businessman, I really enjoy it. For a larger business, it might be hard for something like this to find a good amount of success. But for a company that's local and mainly centered around New York, we found that it's been going really well. And we've only gotten more people's attention as the years have gone by. Things started to change a bit, however, when Wesley got this phone call last month. Wes, you busy? There's something I've been wanting to ask you. Oh wait, that was a girl voice, never mind.
Wes, you busy? There's something I've been wanting to ask you.
His friend Alyssa had called him to let him know that she would be moving from Plainville to New York soon,
and was interested in working for us. I knew Alyssa from back when we were in Plainville. She's a good friend of ours and she's really savvy when it comes to business related things. Wesley agreed that she would make a perfect fit in our business and that as friends we should welcome her to New York. So he decided that we would go over to Plainville for the first time in years to help her move and visit his family along the way. I couldn't really relate to Wesley's other reasons for wanting to go to Plainville that didn't have to do with her, but I could see why he really wanted to go back. Alyssa has visited New York a few times before and has come to see us every now and then, but this will be her first time living here entirely. The annual flea market event happened to be happening around the same time as this, and Wesley saw that as an opportunity to promote our company somewhere outside of the local area. Wanting to visit family and old childhood monuments is something I'll probably never get, though. That kind of stuff doesn't make me happy. Instead, it just reminds me of all the things from my past life that I wanted to forget. Except I can't because when I'm in Plainview, it's right in front of me. I never understood why you would want to be around that. But I guess Wesley just has that soft spot for Plainville I never had. Things seem to be going smoothly, at least with Alyssa planning on working for us. I wasn't looking forward to going to Plainville, but I was looking forward to seeing an old friend and having our business grow. What I didn't know, however, was that I would be getting a phone call from Roderick around the same time. I picked up the phone hoping it would go well. That didn't happen.
Hey, I just thought I'd let you know that Dad's cancer has gotten worse than ever. So if you actually give a shit, I would recommend coming down to Plainville if you want to see him alive one more time.
Wait, Dad has cancer?
Are you kidding me right now? I called you the moment we found out, and I've been calling you every week to update you ever since, you literal piece of dog shit. Oh my god. Is that why it always goes to voicemail? Jesus Christ, Manny, are you seriously telling me that you didn't listen to a single one of those?
I looked at the number of missed calls on my phone to see that I had almost 800 of them just from over the past year. They seem to be from a number of different people, but mainly from Roderick. I guess I had been so involved with work in my own life in New York that I just didn't notice them. I'm sorry, Roderick, I really am. It's just that with the business and everything, I don't know, I guess I just get distracted.
Don't lie to me, Manny. I seriously can't believe you. I put so much time and care into doing this. I didn't have to call you given you never once answered me back, but I did. I did everything I could to try to reconcile with you after what happened, so you could at least feel like part of the family again. But you don't care. You don't care, and you never will. You only care about yourself, you selfish piece of shit. You don't deserve to be my brother. You don't deserve to have brothers. You don't deserve to have anyone. I hope you live the rest of your life alone. I hope you stay alone and no one ever comes to see you when you're in need, because that's what you deserve. Don't ever talk to me again, you fucking piece of shit.
I didn't even get to tell him that I would be going to Plainville the same week. But at this point, whether I actually wanted to go to Plainville or not wasn't even a question anymore. I knew I had to go there anyway just to spite him. I don't know how right he was when he said I didn't care. But if anything, he made me no longer want to care about anything at all by saying that now. I didn't care what Roderick thought of me. I didn't care what Dad thought of me. I couldn't care less about the slightest thought anyone in my family had of me anymore. Either way, I knew that there were only a few well-known hospitals in Plainville and that I was going to prove something to them by coming there. And I wasn't going to prove that. And I wasn't only going to prove that, I was going to prove that my business was successful and that reuniting with an old friend would do me right in the end. And even if I wouldn't be able to prove it to them, at least I would
to myself. The closer it got to the day we arrived in Plainville, the more excited I became about finally being able to see Alyssa again. I don't think me or Wesley have seen her in person at all for at least 2 years, and the times we have before, it had barely been for more than a couple of days. We're supposed to see her tomorrow. I never got to know Alyssa super well, but we've always gotten along great during the times we have hung out with each other. In fact, I might even go far enough to say that I've had more fun the last few times I've seen her than I have with Leslie for the last 2 decades. She just makes me feel really nice. Alyssa reminds me that I have a heart during the times where it seems like it the least. I may not be a good person, but at least I have a heart. She reminds me that I actually am capable of loving people and caring about them, and that's something I tend to forget pretty often. Sometimes when I'm fighting inside of my head and debating whether I'm a decent person or not, talking to her can actually help a bit. It doesn't exactly silence the thoughts in my head that persistently seem to shout at me, but it does temporarily ease the pain overflowing inside of me. We seem to have a lot of things in common as well. I know that we're both fast learners when it comes to gaining new skills, for instance, and we have the same mindset when it comes to business management, and she has ADHD like I do. None of those things are really impressive or worth pointing out, but they are things I've noticed at least. She seems to really like me for who I am as well, and I would be lying if I said I didn't like her back. She has hinted to me before that we would make a good couple and has pushed us to start dating in the past, but I just don't think I'm ready for that kind of thing right now. Don't get me wrong, she's attractive, and I like who she is as a person, but it seems like every relationship I've been in finds its way of turning itself into turmoil, romantic or not. So far right now, all I have been doing is just sitting here, writing in this thing and debating what I should do with the ring. My thoughts keep going back and forth. This ring gives me such a pleasant and comforting feeling. It takes me back to when I was a kid, back when I was a kid and I was still loved. It feels maternal, almost, like it gives me the feeling of comfort the same way a mother gives the feeling of comfort to her child. Something in my life that I can only remember vaguely at best. I thought about it for a while. I thought about it really hard. But then I remembered the other things about my childhood, the things that weren't so pleasant. Like the way my dad treated me as I got older. The way he wanted me to be that I wasn't. The way he treated my brothers, and the more I thought about it, the more it infuriated me. The more I began to fill with rage over the main memories of what my past life was. I looked down at the ring again. I thought about the thoughts I had earlier. I ran the same question through my mind, whether I should keep it or not. But now the answer I had in mind was a different one. Why would I want to keep something that reminds me of my past? Why would I want to keep something that will only remind me of the hell I've been put through I will probably be recovering from for the rest of my life? Fuck this family! Fuck this ring! Fuck my dad! It's not worth it. The amount of money I could potentially get from it, the money that will actually help me repair my business and my relationship with my closest friend, nothing else is worth saving. Hey, I just heard someone walk in the building. It's about time someone approaches our booth. We've gotten almost no buyers and I've been waiting for it. Oh shit. For a moment it seemed like everything going on in the background froze, like it all went completely silent. The only sound I could hear was the sound of my heart beating, and that sound just seemed to grow louder and louder and louder, to the extent where it sounded like multiple bombs going off in my ears at once for every second I continued to stand there, looking at her. It seemed to be setting off some sort of alarm in my head. It seemed to be telling me that I needed to do something, anything,
for her to not see me standing there, and I had to do it fast. Thankfully, an idea came to mind. How much for a mask, please? Thank God it's Halloween season, otherwise the vendors here wouldn't be selling masks and I would have nothing to use to hide myself from her. As ridiculous as I looked, most of the other shoppers in the building were wearing them as well, and it did the job. That was all that mattered. I watched as she took another step closer and closer to where my booth was. She kept walking towards it until the next thing I knew, she was right in front of me. And then she stopped. Then she looked at the table. There was something at my booth in particular that had caught her attention.
That ring. My Meemaw used to have one just like it.
I was hoping that she would just look at it for a moment and move on. That she would just put it down after a few seconds and then go to see what the next booth had to offer, but that wasn't what happened. That wasn't what happened at all. Instead, she went into a very long speech of what this ring meant to her, and none of it was anything that I was expecting.
The ring she had was something that always stood out to me during my childhood. It had been passed down for multiple generations and was said to be very valuable. And not only was it valuable in the sense of it being worth money, but also in what it meant to us as a family. Me and my siblings as kids saw it as a symbol of something very significant, but too complex for us to understand at our age. We would only begin to understand the significance of it years after she passed away. But the strange thing is that after she died, her ring suddenly went missing. And we knew it had to be somewhere, but no one could find it. After a while, it seemed like we would never be able to find it again. But I always had a creeping notion that something else was going on. Something that I wasn't aware of. And I wouldn't find out what that was until recently. Very recently. Just a week ago, my husband died of cancer. Maybe if we had the money to afford the bills, he would still be alive. Maybe I would be able to look at him in the face one more time and tell him I did all I could. But the chance is gone now. I will never have that again. My son Gregory came over soon. He had been visibly hurt and broken by the direction his life was heading, so I allowed him to stay at my house for the time being. But what he did once I allowed him to stay was not something I was expecting. He went into our closet and took out something that he had kept in there all along. The ring. I wasn't happy with what he had done. That ring was worth everything. It was worth my husband's life. It was worth my family's legacy. I became really angry at him. I yelled at him repeatedly until it felt like I couldn't. I screamed my lungs out, desperately begging for some sort of answer how he could do such a thing. But that wasn't what I got by doing that. Instead, I got him to leave my life forever. He took off once he saw how I reacted, and looking back, I can't say that I can blame him. I never heard from him again until days later, where it was announced in the newspaper that he had committed suicide. My youngest son Emmanuel, just a day later, was caught by the police for setting fire to my husband's grave. The same youngest son who didn't pay a single dollar to help us out until his death. The same youngest son that hadn't said a single word to us for almost 8 years. And as much as I hate to say it, the things that he's done doesn't surprise me. He never cared much for his own family after all. I don't know where the ring went after Gregory ran off with it. It could be in the hands of Emmanuel for all I know. And I wouldn't be surprised if he sold it for his own good. And I wouldn't be surprised if he had sold it for his own good instead of for his family's sake. Because that's what he does. That's what he always does. He doesn't care about the other people who may be suffering more than him. He only thinks about how things will affect him in the long run. I despise who my son has turned into. He's turned into someone I no longer feel like I know. He isn't the young, happy boy I remember carrying in my arms. So vicious and threatening to be around. And I don't know what I can do about it. I don't know if there's anything I can do. I wish I could have done something before it got to this point. I wish I could have done something the very moment he was born. I knew I shouldn't have created the monster that Emmanuel Heffley. I know I shouldn't have created the monster that is Emmanuel Heffley. But it's too late to come to terms with that now. Because that's who he is. He was born as Emmanuel Heffley, and he will die as Emmanuel Heffley. And as long as he is Emmanuel Heffley, he wouldn't change. There's no escaping that. You can try to run away from something that's destroying you as much as you want, but you can't do that when the only thing that's destroying you is yourself. It catches up to you eventually. It will ultimately take hold of you and seal you within its own grip. And once you get to that point, it's near impossible to get out. You can't create your own path when you stumble and fall over it every time. That only leads to your downfall. I don't know if I will ever see my son again, but I only wish that I could tell him one thing. As much as I wish to never see his face on the earth again, I just want to let him know that I love him. As much as I despise who he's become, as much as I regret seeing him, as much as I regret seeing who I molded him into, I still love him, and I always will. Why? Because that's the one thing he never got in his life. Love. I love him because he needs someone in his life who will. And he will never learn to love himself. You know, it's funny. Every year I would take my family over here, and they would all find something that was for them. It was It was the one thing that connected us all together. But now even that's gone. I can't even say I have a family anymore. This is the only thing that's left. And now it's all empty and lifeless. So maybe not even that. It looks like I can't afford the ring. Oh well. It probably doesn't mean anything to the family anymore anyway. That meaning has been lost. Goodbye, random stranger. I'll probably never see you again. I watched as she slowly walked back over to where the door was and left. I just stood there, unable to say anything. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. All I could do was just stand there and wonder. I just stood there, completely distraught. I remained in that position, just silently standing there inside of the booth for what seemed like an eternity. Perhaps even more than an eternity. It felt like I was going to be stuck like this forever. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know if there was anything I could at this point. I couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. I couldn't comprehend that it did. And there was nothing that could have gotten my mind off of it. Every time I blinked, every time I would close my eyes for just 1 second, I would see her face. I would hear her voice. I couldn't get it out of my head. There seemed to be only one thought that entered my mind. It made me think, what am I going to do now? Is there anything I could do now? And then I heard someone say something. Something that suggested that they were talking to me. I eventually looked over to see who it was. After what I had been subjected to, I thought I would be able to handle anything at this point. I would soon discover that this wasn't the case. Hello, I'd like to buy that ring. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Oh, hi. What would you like to buy? The ring. Oh, ring? What ring? The one that's in front of you, on your desk? Oh yeah, sure. I can sell it for you. Wait a minute, I know who you are. You're Manny Heffley. You're the piece of shit responsible for my sister's death. You're the person I've been trying to forget about for the last 10 years. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize you after what you've done to my life? Did you really think you would be able to come back to Plainville with no repercussions whatsoever? Well, you were fucking wrong. Abby did not deserve this. She deserved anyone in her life. Anyone but you. You were poison to her heart. You made it bleed. You caused her soul to shrivel up and collapse into nothing. Nothing is left anymore. Nothing is left. And it's all because of you. You let this happen. You could have prevented it from happening, but you didn't. And why didn't you? Because of just the reason I thought you never actually cared about her. You're human garbage. You're not every... Oh my god. You're not even good enough to be human. You're garbage. You're just garbage. That's all you are. Give me one reason why I shouldn't beat the absolute shit out of you in this flea market right now. Give me one goddamn reason. My mind had filled with panic at this point. I had dropped the mask I was holding. I should have kept it on. I was now completely frozen. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. There was only one thing I was able to utter to him. One thing that I managed to say, as utterly scared and at a loss as I was. Please, Bryce! What happened isn't what you think. I swear to God it isn't what you think. Bryce, please just let me speak. Well, if it isn't what I think, then what happened? Who let her die? The goddamn Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus? Who do you think it was, Manny? Shel Silverstein, who did it? But he wouldn't let me explain. Instead, he only continued to go on about how horrible of a person I was, and would only continue to talk about the thing that I have to force myself not to think about every day, or put the blame on myself for. The thing that I repeatedly have to tell myself wasn't that fault, just so I can calm down during the days when I'm feeling my worst. Or after a while, I just began to tune out everything he said. That stopped when I suddenly heard him say something that caught my attention. You're not any better than Greg. You don't care about other people. You only care... Oh my god. You only use them until you get what you want out of them and then abandon them forever. I don't even know what to think about any of you anymore. What the hell did Bryce know about Greg? And what the fuck gave him the right to say I was a worse person than that asshole? I've done my own fair share of snooping in Greg's room as a kid, reading his yearbooks. As far as I knew, Bryce knew Greg all throughout grade school, but I've never heard about them actually talking to each other or being friends. I had my own reasons for why I thought Greg was a dick, but there was no way that he could have treated Bryce any worse than the way he treated me as a brother, right? Well, it turned out that not only was I wrong, but I wish I never even asked to begin with. Wait, what did Greg ever do to you? That manipulative asshole fucking slept with me just so I could give him his job back. All this time I've known him, I thought we had something. I thought there was something truly meaningful between us. Something beautiful. But don't let your own thoughts fool you. Nothing about Greg is beautiful. It might look that way at first. It might look that way from a far distance, but up close he's nothing but pure repulsiveness. The way he treated me over the years alone is vile, especially leading up to what he did. I thought we had something that was truly special. I really thought we did, but instead he just ripped all of those feelings I had away from me. And I'll never feel the same again. It feels like something inside of me broke, as if it shattered into a million sharp miniature pieces that repeatedly keep stabbing me over and over, and I'm scared that's going to be permanent. And if I've been punctured from feeling any potential love ever again. Wait, Greg slept with you? Yeah, he just to use me this whole time. It's fucked up.
Oh my god. It all makes sense now. What makes sense now? What do you mean? Manny? Are you okay? I have to go. Wait, where are you going? What about the ring? Forget the stupid ring. So, does that mean I can have it for free? Okay then, cool. I didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't want to be in Plainville anymore. I wanted to vomit. Wesley was already waiting for me in the car. All I wanted to do at this point was lie down in bed and try to forget about everything that just happened. But Wesley had something else on his mind. So, did you sell the ring? Fuck the ring, Wesley. He didn't respond to that very well. What do you mean, fuck the ring? Emmanuel, have you lost your mind? The ring reminds me of my past, Wesley. A bad part of my past. Yeah, so? That doesn't mean you can't sell it. What's the point of selling it, Wesley? What's the point of doing anything with it? I'm tired of always feeling like my past is controlling my life. And these things like the ring just keep reminding me of it more. People will often tell you that time heals, but that's not always the case. What they don't know is that time isn't always the right remedy, and sometimes it does more harm than good. I feel like all of this time keeps going by, and nothing ever heals. Nothing ever gets any better. And I try to look forward to the good things that could happen in the future. But those small fragments of things I developed in my past still lie there. Like broken shards of glass, and every now and then in the present I find myself stepping on one, and it hurts. So yeah, fuck the ring. Fuck selling it. I gave it away for free because screw anything that has to do with it, right? You drive. Why? Just do what I said. I didn't think anything as we both got out the car to switch sides. I just complied to his instructions without saying a word. What followed it, however, was a different story. I can't take this bullshit from you anymore, Emmanuel. You have one more chance to get things right after this. And if you don't, that's it. Because you've been putting me through so much lately and I can't take it. We sold absolutely nothing today. Absolutely nothing at all. Are you happy about that, Emmanuel? Are you fucking proud? I'm sick of you constantly pulling the exact same shit every time. And you always say you won't do it the next time. And that things will be different. But it never is, and you always do. And it only gets worse. Why do you always do this, Emmanuel? You never listen to what I say, or what my instructions are, or what I think is a good idea. You only listen to your own ideas. I can't think of one thing I've asked you to do that you've ever done right. I can't think of one thing that I've ever asked you to do that you haven't deliberately fucked up. You fucked up your job, you fucked up your family, you fucked up me, yourself, you fucked up everything. This is what you do, Emmanuel. You set fires. You set fires to everything you touch, and it's always someone else who has to put them out. That never seems to change, Emmanuel, does it? Everything that has and will ever be around you is a burning fire. It's almost like this is what your destiny is, as if your destiny is to turn anything you'll ever put your hands on into ashes. That's who you are, Emmanuel. That's you. Everything slowly started to blur after a while. I began to watch everything in my vision as it would slowly morph into a blurry mess of colors that I could no longer recognize from each other. They all blended together in one dull, lifeless color on its own that seemed to become the only thing I could see anymore. Any awareness I had of what was happening or could have been happening was gone, and the only thing I could see was that. And then I felt something. I felt something suddenly hit me hard. Emmanuel! What the fuck have you done? Wesley, where are we? You almost got us killed, you fucking dolt! For a moment, I didn't recognize where I was. All I could see was the sight of broken glass and a pole
that had fallen over. Almost right above where my head was, I could still hear Wesley screaming at me, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. And then suddenly everything became silent, as if the sounds around me slowly began to fade out. I began to feel nothing but the presence of total silence around me. It almost felt dreamlike, as if this wasn't really happening. Something about it was oddly peaceful, in the most absurd and elusive way you could imagine. I almost started to doze off in a dreamlike silence the atmosphere around me created. But then I heard the sound of someone outside of a car opening the door next to me. I looked to my left to see who it was, and that was when it all came to an end. Well, if it isn't who I think it is. Perhaps I should help you two out of the car, or perhaps I should just keep on lecturing my pathetic nephew because he deserves that quite a bit more. Wow, barely injuries at all? Must have been lucky. I don't know why this world works the way it does. God would have been better off if he never created you to begin with. I don't know why he ever gave himself that misfortune, but he did. And look at where we are now. You know, it really is a shame that you survived. At this point, I got up so fast as I could. I ran out of the car. I yelled at Wesley to run with me. He kept asking me what about the car and where we were even going and why we couldn't talk to the police. I told him to not ask any questions. I kept running until I knew we were far away from that piece of shit scumbag for good. I didn't even know where we were anymore, but that didn't matter. I just kept running. What I didn't know, however, was that Wesley had injured his ankle badly and that he was still pissed at me. Very pissed at me. We stopped running when we saw that we ended up on a cliff and there was nowhere to keep going. We had reached the end of where we were. Just the sight of it felt like we had reached the end of everything in general. Everything felt like it was over, but not in a good way. It felt like something had died. We both just stood there for a moment, completely out of breath. Neither of us said anything. We barely even acknowledged or looked at each other. We just stood there in complete silence. It continued to stay like this until Wesley worked up the energy to break it with one question.
What in the living fuck have you gotten us into, man, Emmanuel? Just what the fuck have you done?
I didn't have an answer for that, so I said nothing. I didn't have the answer that he would want to hear, at least. So we continued to stay silent for longer. Eventually, Wesley decided that the question he asked me wasn't enough, so he began to yell at me.
I've worked so hard this past year, Emmanuel. I've worked so hard just so we could gather the money that we needed to travel over here. And you ruined it! You fucking ruined it! Just like you ruined fucking everything. Are you proud of what you've done? Are you fucking happy? I really hope you are, you asshole. I would say that I can't believe what you did, but that would just make me angry at myself for not being able to believe it in the first place. I should expect this from you now. I really shouldn't have to, but I should. I'm sorry, Wesley. I really didn't mean to make you. Please don't do the I'm sorry thing right now. It's always the same fucking thing with you. It's always you doing something horribly screwed up and then apologizing afterwards as if you want to make me feel guilty for being mad. I'm not going to fucking take this anymore. Please, Wesley, I'm sorry this time, please.
It was around this point, Wesley got interrupted by a phone call. It was one of our customers who weren't aware our store had been closed all week. It would stay closed for the next 2 weeks.
Hello, you've reached the Stringley's numbers. This is Wesley Stringer speaking. How may I help you?
Hey, are you guys closed right now?
Yes, there is both a notice in front of our store and on our website that we will be closed until the 23rd.
Oh, okay, because I went over to the store today and I saw that.
If you saw that, then why would you never mind. Is there anything I could help you with?
A standard blowtorch is $20, right?
Yes. Wait a minute, are you the same customer who came over and asked that 2 days ago? And you asked the same thing a week before that and a week before? Jesus, are you unable to remember anything? How do you live on a day-to-day basis if this is you on a normal day?
Well, I couldn't remember. Is that a problem?
No! I don't even want to hear your excuse. You clearly have nothing useful to say. Go fuck yourself, idiot. Don't call me again until you have a question that isn't fucking moronic.
Well, Wait, what did you just say to him?
Emmanuel, don't start this right now. You just told a customer to go fuck himself. That's not okay. Oh, so now you're suddenly the judge of what's okay. This is our business, Wesley. And he was putting me in a worse mood than I already was. I'm sorry that I happened to be angry after my friend crashed my car. I'm sorry that I happened to be upset when my friend screws me over entirely and then proceeds to guilt trip me for being mad afterwards. I am so sorry that makes you sad, you poor thing.
Look, Wesley, I know you're in a bad mood, but calling your customers idiots isn't going to help anything. You're just going to draw people away by doing that. It only is going to make things worse. Can't be both the owner of a reputable company and an asshole to people. That doesn't get you any respect.
Gee, what great advice from someone who literally lit a cemetery on fire.
I just don't get why you have to be such a dick all the time.
Yeah, because you're such a great person.
I never said I was. Just saying that acting out from your emotions isn't going to solve anything. And I know I'm not the best example of that. I know I can make terrible decisions and I can lash out. But I realized something last night when I was at the cemetery. Burning my dad's grave in a fit of anger didn't solve anything. It only got me arrested and gave me nightmares. I don't feel any better from it at all. I just feel worse, but at least I've recognized a problem here. At least I feel like I can change.
No, you won't. I know you won't. You always say you're going to change, but you never do. You're just going to keep making the same mistakes and do the exact same thing all over again, just like you've always done. I know you, Emmanuel. I've known you for 20 years. You won't change.
Wesley walked over the edge of the cliff we were standing on and sat down. Then he proceeded to bury his face in his hands and cry. And I knew there was nothing I could do about it other than watch him, in pure silence and misery. The same silence and misery we both shared, but in separate ways that could never be connected. With the large amount of spare money I had, I decided that I would pay for another rental car and pay off everything I needed for the one that was damaged. But I knew that still wasn't enough for Wesley to forgive me. I didn't know if anything I did would be at this point. We spent nearly the entirety of the car ride back to the hotel without saying a single word. It seems like the more time we spend with each other nowadays, the less we even speak to one another, the less we even have any kind of communication at all. I wish there was something I could have done to prevent all of this from happening. I wish I could be back in New York again and forget that this even happened at all. But this isn't reality, is it? Even if I was able to go back to New York right now and forget all about this, it wouldn't fix anything. I wouldn't get rid of the fact that I screwed all of this up, that I'm the reason why everything has gone to shit now. And no matter how much I try to forget about this or run away from it, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be sitting there in the back of my mind, attentively waiting to haunt me. And I know that in either choice I end up making, I'm going to make it worse somehow. I just know. And I also knew that no matter what I said to Wesley right now, it wouldn't make him any happier with me. So I decided to ask him a question. Look, Wesley, I know you don't want to hear it, but I'm sorry about what I did. I'm sorry I've been so shitty to you lately. I'm sorry for everything. And I know I've said that a million times in the past, but I'm your friend, and I shouldn't have done any of this to you. I shouldn't have dragged you into my problems like that. I shouldn't have lost that much control. I shouldn't have done any of the things I did. It's just that it's been a rough week for me lately, and well, look, I know you're mad at me. I know I've done some pretty terrible things lately that can't be justified. And I know that I've done some shit in the past as well. But the thing is, during those times, I never actually thought about what I was doing or how that would make me be seen by people. Just acts as a knee-jerk reaction for me, almost. And I never once actually questioned if it is the right thing to do, at least not until, well, now. And I'm only now beginning to realize it isn't the way for everyone. I don't know what's wrong with me, Wesley. I don't think this is normal. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because you're my friend, so you might as well be honest with me. I know I'm a shitty person, Wesley. You can tell me.
Look, I'm sorry for lashing out on you today. We already know you don't always make the greatest decisions, Emmanuel. Both you and I know that, and knowing that doesn't bother me. No one's perfect, and at the end of the day, you're still my friend nonetheless. But what bothers me is that you seem to be perfectly okay with not improving. You don't seem to want to become better, and always say you will, but you never actually do. I feel like through all the years we've known each other, you've never actually grown. And it's just agonizing to see. I've tried to change, I really have. You just haven't noticed because you're not around me so often. But I've turned around. I've turned around a lot. Maybe even almost as much as a full 360 turn. You said exactly what the problem is, Emmanuel. Do you know what direction a 360 turn goes in? A 360 turn will just put you back in the same place you were in before. You might have tried to change, and it might have seemed like things have changed, but you're still the same because you keep trying to change in the same ways that didn't work before. You need to turn yourself around in a different direction, or you won't go anywhere. You'll just end up back in the same place you've always ended up in. For the entire last decade you've been working in New York with me, you've been a wreck, and I understand why. You can't fix what's been broken in the past, but I feel like if you don't fix yourself soon after all that's happened now, your life and motives are going to be broken beyond repair. And don't get me wrong, you're still my friend, and I'll still support you, but I don't want to keep working with something that's broken. I understand. Every part of me feels sore, as if I've walked 1,000 miles but never reached a destination. The journey never really ends. It never really takes you anywhere. It just wants you to keep walking until the rest of your remaining limbs fall off. And I'm not sure if I have too many left. They always tell you that tomorrow will be a new day and that it will all be okay in the morning. But I sure don't feel okay. It might be a new day, but the previous one is still fresh in my mind. And I would be surprised if the mental scar it's given me hasn't broken the skin at this point. I feel like the inside of me is bleeding. But of course no part of my lifeblood can go anywhere because it's inside of me. And therefore there's no way for it to come out. I am, and will always be trapped within my own misery. I can only think of one thing that will make me feel better, and that's seeing Alyssa again. We're going to see her today. I haven't seen her in a really long time, so I'm excited. I'm really excited, but I'm also scared. The last few times I've seen Alyssa, we've hit it amazingly. That never seems to fail every time I see her. And I would love to grow closer and get to know her more. But at the same time, that scares me. Don't get me wrong, she's a great friend, but I just don't know how long I could handle being closer to someone if anything were to happen. I remember the last time I grew closer to someone other than Wesley. It didn't go so great. It started nicely, that's true. It brought me some of the greatest memories I have, but it didn't end well. I love you, Abby.
I love you too, Emmanuel.
Always going to stick with each other forever, right?
Of course we will. As long as we're Abby and Emmanuel, anything is forever.
But not even forever lasts forever. The only thing that will really last forever is the pain I'll always have from losing her. And the hatred I'll always have for what my dad did to her life. God, I still can't bring myself to talk about it. It just hurts. Fuck! It hurts so bad. I think I'll go distract myself with something. That's the only thing that ever helps. Maybe I can go through my blueprints for the blowtorches I'm planning to build. I know I brought them with me on this trip. Wesley made sure I didn't forget them. I'll just go ask him where I put them. Well, that didn't go so well.
You mean you forgot to bring them? I told you right before you left to make sure we had them with you. And you said that you did. I thought you did this whole time. Can you remember to do anything for the... I'm lashing out again, aren't I? I'm sorry. I'm just really stressed right now. But please think about the mistake you made and try not to repeat it again. Those blueprints were really important. I wanted Alyssa to see them. I tried to remember the last time he reminded me about bringing them. I couldn't remember him telling me before we left, although I feel like it happened. It probably did happen, so why couldn't I remember that? Oh, right.
Don't ever talk to me again, you fucking piece of shit.
Emmanuel, you remember the blueprints, right? The what? The blueprints. I'm just making sure you remember to pack them with you before you leave.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Fuck yeah, I'm calling him again. He's going to know I'm coming to Plainville.
We're sorry. The number you were trying to call has been blocked or disconnected. Please check and try again if you...
God damn it. I can't do anything right, can I? At least I have one good thing to look forward to.
Seeing Alyssa again went better than it ever could have. Alyssa, I have to tell you that I meant to bring my blueprints for the blowtorch models I drew, but I kind of forgot them and left them in New York. But it's okay. I mean, I still have them saved on my computer. I still have them digitally, just not...
Oh, don't worry about it, Emmanuel. I forget things all the time. I even forgot to pack up for moving this whole week. I haven't packed one box. I guess I just got distracted, you know? Maybe you could help me pack the next few days you're here.
Oh yeah, that would be great. I'm glad to know it's not just me.
Oh, it definitely isn't just you. I once forgot my ID when going to the airport. I had to drive 4 hours back to my house.
Wait, really? I've done the exact same thing twice. I went to work without shoes once. I didn't realize I wasn't wearing them until 2 hours into my job.
Yeah, and I forgot to bring my wallet to the store all the time. Lovely. That's just great. Emmanuel, why don't you show her what you have on your computer? I need to stop at the store.
I will gladly help you pack for moving, Alyssa. Would you like me to show you the blueprints I have?
Thanks, sure. But why don't I show you around the house first?
We spent the rest of the evening doing nothing but talking to each other. Not arguing, not complaining about anything, just talking.
And it couldn't have been any nicer. Something feels different, like a good kind of different. I feel like I found someone who actually understands me. She's just like me. She's everything like me. And now that I have that, I never want to let it go. When I showed Alyssa the ideas I had for the kind of blowtorches I wanted to invent in the future, she seemed to react better than I could have ever thought of. Wesley seems to only care about the business aspect of my ideas, which I get and all, and I'm all for, but that's the most important aspect after all. But Alyssa is interested in every single thing about what I do, and I've never had that coming from someone before. It feels really nice.
So this one that I have an idea for is going to have 3 heads, so the flames can come from 3 places at once. That's not too ridiculous, is it?
No, it's brilliant. I could never come up with something like that.
It's almost like every moment I talk to her, it just gets better. I don't know how, but it does. It just does. I'm glad you think so. Wesley thinks otherwise. Now this one over here has a canister shaped like a spear. It's a lot smaller and runs out of fuel faster, but it's also more convenient to carry around. Do you think that's any good? Wesley always tells me how no one will ever want something like this, but I feel like rules were meant to be broken. I feel like if no one wanted them, we wouldn't have the ability to come up with these ideas in the first place, you know? He likes everything to be rigid at all times, I get it, but it just becomes discouraging sometimes. It makes me wonder if what I'm doing is worth it. These aren't bad ideas, are they?
Your ideas are unique, Emmanuel, and that's exactly why I love them. I love them because they inspire me, and I love them because they're yours. If it wasn't for how innovative your company is, I wouldn't be moving all the way to New York to work there. You don't have one bad idea, Emmanuel. Trust me.
Really? Wow, thanks. I've never had anyone say that to me before.
Seriously, thanks. I mean that.
After that, Alyssa left her room to take a shower. I was all alone now, thinking of nothing but how this had been the happiest I felt in years. How this was the best decision I ever could have made. Everything felt so warm, so right. I just sat there for a moment, basking in the happiness that shined upon me, taking in how I felt, and then
I saw something. Lying on her bed was a small, soft, blue baby blanket, almost like a larger version of the one I used to have as a kid. I picked it up and held it. It felt nice, like reuniting with an old childhood friend, a friend who used to grab you by the hand and take you into their own world, a world that would soon become both of yours, a world where both of you would explore this more mysterious parts of life before they felt ordinary, and go on endless journeys created by the most intangible parts of your imagination. Back when it felt like there truly was some kind of magic in the world you weren't aware of. Back when that was something you didn't even question the legitimacy of, because the feeling of it from those journeys alone were that convincing. Why can't I go back to that world? Why couldn't that friend actually been real? Were those feelings either real to begin with, or were they just all the result of the childhood euphoria that comes from a young and hypersensitive mind? A large part of me leans towards the latter, but I don't think I'll ever know for sure. I held it in my arms for a bit longer while thinking about this more. All the memories I had, all of the journeys, when did it stop? How did it stop? I don't remember it was like this at one point, so what changed? What stopped my life from being magical and made it miserable instead? I looked down at the blanket again, and that was when all the other memories started to flow back. Memories I thought I had forgotten about for good. How many times do I have to tell you this, Manny? You're far too old to be dragging Tingy with you everywhere. Is this who you want to be, Manny? Do you want to be a big baby? Because that's what you look like when you carry that thing around. You look like a big, pathetic baby. But I love Tingy. Well, too bad, because it doesn't look like Tingy loves you. Why else would he keep going to the trash bin? Because he doesn't want to be around you, Manny. Who would want to be around someone who acts like a baby? Nobody. Especially not him. Tingy wouldn't do that. He's my best friend. Well, it looks like your best friend is going to go far away for a bit. Say goodbye to Tingy. Dad, no! What are you doing? Dad, no! I couldn't have been any older than 6 at the time. I had a blanket that I carried her with me everywhere. I loved that blanket. I called it Tingy. I guess I carried it around too much. I wore it out to the point where it barely resembled a blanket anymore, but instead just a thing. And sometimes I fear that's what's going to happen to me someday, that I'll become so worn out from being dragged along by everything that one day I won't even resemble someone with life inside of them anymore, that I'll just become something that exists, a thing. I don't have too many memories from before I was 5, but I do remember being told I carried him around until my dad threw him away for the first time. I guess the fit I threw over it was enough to convince my mom to get me another one, because that's what happened after something about a birthday party that had an identical blanket as one of the gifts. So much to Dad's dismay, I continued to carry that thing everywhere for years afterwards until it became worn out to nothing but strings and shreds again. And then that happened. And then that was the end of that. I can't really describe what it's like to have something you've formed such a large attachment to taken away at an age like that. No matter how simple the thing in question is, it feels like you're helpless in every way, like a part of you is being detached against your will, and you feel all of the pain as it's being ripped apart from yourself. I had no idea what the things I was feeling were at the time, or why it hurt the way it did. All I knew was that whatever it was bad, and that there wasn't anything I could do about it, or if there ever would be anything I could do about it. As more and more years went by, I started to gain more feelings that I recognized but couldn't put words to, more complicated ones that I couldn't understand, and eventually I would start to feel so many at once that they all started to clash, and they would continue to, until I became what you see now.
Are you sure we should be in here? Your dad really doesn't seem to like it when other people are in the basement.
Fuck whatever Dad thinks. What has that cheap asshole ever done for me? fuck dad and his stupid ugly face. And this stupid dumb hobby of his, and my two stupid fucking brothers, who are somehow more important than me. My dad wouldn't know the first thing about me if I were to put every single fact about myself into a Civil War book and shove it so far up his ass it would reach him to his throat and choke him to death. Then I wouldn't have to live with him anymore. God, I wish I could do that. We're supposed to be doing homework. Who cares about homework? It's not like any progress I make in school will ever be pointed out. It's just going to be, you could have done better, Manny. And why couldn't you get an A this time? My dad doesn't even acknowledge that I fucking tried. What's even the point? I'm really nervous, Manny. Your dad is going to be mad. Good. I want him to be mad. I know he won't hear his own voice in the back of his head, but I wonder if he'll hear this. Fuck you, Dad! Do you hear me? I said fuck you, Dad! Of course he can't hear me. Hey, Wesley. Watch this. Looks like this figurine is about to be Pulverine. Goodbye, General Grant. Now you're just General Ash. Oh, hi, Dad. Get the fuck out of here right now. Leave, Wesley. I'm sorry, Wesley. Not because of this, but because out of all the people you could have chosen you as their friend, it had to be my son. You deserve people who treat you better than this. Goodbye, Manny. Guess I'll see you tomorrow. I guess. Let's you and me have a talk, friend. Are you sure we should be in here? Emmanuel? What do you mean? Are you sure we shouldn't be in here? I mean, this is Alyssa's bedroom. I was looking for you and I, didn't expect to find you in here. Oh, don't worry about that. You guys are my friends. My home is yours. I can show you where the guest room is if you'd like. Please do. That would be great. There's some business phone calls I need to make and I need it to be somewhere quiet. Oh, okay, sure thing. Oh. You like that blanket? It, just reminds me of the one I used to have as a kid. You can have it if you want. Keep it, it's yours. Alyssa took us down to the guest room, where Wesley proceeded to make his business calls. It didn't exactly go in the most pleasant way. I'm not sure how it started or when it began, but lately when Wesley has been taking phone calls, he's been starting to get angry. What was the name of the blowtorch model you said stopped working? I said, what was the name of the torch? For fuck's sakes, just give me the name! Oh, okay. That one should come with an instruction manual. It shows several methods of fixing it on the page 7. Try one of those and then call me back later. After the last call, I decided that I finally had enough of this and decided to say something. I can't take this from you anymore, Wesley. You can't keep talking to customers that way. It's just not professional and it just comes off as rude. I guess that ended up being a mistake because Wesley responded to me just as aggressively as he did with his customers. I tried to respond as reasonably as I could, but it felt like the more things we said, the more heated the situation got. Hey! I don't know what kind of things you've done for our business lately, but I'm currently taking care of everything that's been on my plate during the time I should be on vacation. Maybe if you actually did your part in this, I wouldn't be so annoyed. Your job has always been to answer the phone calls though. What does my own work have to do with that? It's not like I haven't been doing anything. All I'm asking you is to stop being a jerk to your own customers. Yeah, because Wesley is clearly the bad guy here. He's so unprofessional, right? Yeah, he is. What happened, Wesley? This isn't the person I remember having fun with in school. This isn't the person I used to look forward to seeing every day. You've become so unpleasant to be around. You've become mean. Sometimes I can't help but sit there every now and then and ask myself, what would the old Wesley think of himself now? And the answer that comes to my mind is always the same. It's never a good one. What happened? You're asking me what happened? It's obvious what happened. I grew up, Emmanuel. Something that you've clearly never done. And if you don't like the way I manage my business, you can get the fuck out. After all, like you said, I'm the phone call guy. So what do you even need to be here for? Alyssa probably cares more about your shitty drawings anyway. Your business? I was always under the impression that this was a partnership, but if you say so, and fine, I will. Alyssa probably does care more anyway. At least she isn't constantly talking shit about every aspect of this business. Like, you know how the business owner should be about something they hold passion in? Did you just say she would make a better owner than me? I said she doesn't constantly talk shit like you do. She's actually nice to people. At this point, there was only one thing I had on my mind, and only one person I wanted to talk to, and it wasn't him. Alyssa took me to her backyard, where we gathered around the fire pit. It was much needed given it was a dark night, dark enough for us to only be able to see the outlines of our faces at the most. I couldn't help but feel that the mood of the sky fit how I had been feeling, as if our mood was one and the same. The most I could do as we sat there was look into the fire. Its presence warm but powerful, its embrace all too welcoming yet all too painful as I continued to stare at it. All of the past memories from this week flashed in my mind, flickering and moving in the same ways the flames were, like a dancing motion with no rhythm. Just like the flames, the thoughts in my mind don't seem to have a method to their madness. If there was a method, it would have been solved long ago. Instead, it's just uncontrolled chaos. Chaos that might burn a few bridges if left uncontrolled.
This is what you do, Emmanuel. You set fires to everything you touch. He was born as Emmanuel Heffley and will die as Emmanuel Heffley. As long as he's Emmanuel Heffley, he won't change. There's no escaping that.
No one is here for you, Manny. No one is ever going to be. You'll never be anything but ignored, just like how I was to you. You're human garbage. You're not even good enough to be human. You're just garbage. That's all you are. You know, it really is a shame that you survived. That never seems to change, Emmanuel, does it? I looked away from the fire and back at who was in front of me, the one person I knew I could speak to without ridicule. I didn't know what to say, so I just decided to start talking, just say whatever was on my mind. You know, every time I think I'm moving forward in life, there's always something from my path that sets me back. And it just makes me wonder sometimes, when is that going to go away? Like, when will I be able to start off on a clean slate again? Will I ever go away? It's like I know my life wasn't like this at one point. I remember these small bits and fragments from my childhood, where everything felt so magical. Like there was this mystic wonder in the air that you couldn't quite understand, but you could feel it. And it made you wonder what this mysterious thing called life was. It made you want to know more about it. It made you want to discover everything that you could in the world, of what more was there, what more this strange, mysterious world had to offer. But it's like without warning that all stopped one day. Like the world just became depressing and dull. And as much as I tried to get that feeling back over the years, it would only come back in small doses and from vague memories. Memories that I can barely make out anymore. And it just makes me wonder, what happened? Will I ever be able to capture that feeling again? Or is it gone forever? And that feeling alone felt like something I experienced so rarely in my childhood. That magical feeling I don't remember a single day or a certain age I could recall back to for when I had those moments. All I have are these tiny cut up fragments scattered throughout seemingly random parts of my early life, covered in the poison that the rest of my memories created. But those tiny bits and fragments always seem to pop up in my mind again, to remind me of how great things somehow used to be, how magical they were. How do I go back to that Alyssa? How do I go back to that life? How do I feel that good again?
You mean how to feel like a kid again?
I guess. Is that what being a kid is supposed to feel like? Is that what you're supposed to feel? Oh my god. I barely had a childhood. I barely got to be a kid. My dad took it away from me. Just like how he took away everything else I ever had. The one good feeling I ever got in life was taken away from me.
Emmanuel, my friend, it will be all okay.
I know how painful it is, but it will be okay. I was similar to you as a kid, and I had a dad who acted a lot like yours did. I was in your place once, where I didn't know if I would ever be happy. But I realized something one day, and I'm going to tell you what I wish someone would have told me. Sometimes we don't always get to freely be kids while we're kids, and we have to wait until we're adults to live the childhood we were meant to have. Sometimes those small bits of magic we witnessed during our childhood don't get their chance to truly shine until we get older, and we're free from the things that once kept us caged in. That's when we really get to see the shining light in our presence. You may have had some rough things happen to you, Manuel, but that was in your past. Now you have the chance to change it and make things better. Now you have the chance to make your life anything, and no one can stop you. No one can stop you but yourself. But how do I do that? How do I get there? Everything seems so far away. It's all so stagnant. But I feel like if I don't change now, my future won't be any different than how my past was, and I don't want that. Well, the first step that helped me is to find something in your life that always makes you happy. Something that always makes you feel happy and hopeful. When you think of it, no matter what other feelings you might have, can you think of at least one thing? The only thing I can think of is, well, it's when I'm with you. Yeah, when I'm with you. We spent the rest of the night talking about our childhoods and bonding over how similar they were. I never knew how much we truly had in common until now. But yeah, I used to get in trouble back in school so much just because I didn't know what was going on or what was being taught at the moment. Oh yeah, me too. My dad even threatened to send me to Spag Union. Spag Union? I thought that was just for boys. Oh no, they had it for girls too. It just wasn't as big. I never knew about that. My dad knew a lot about a lot of things you would never believe. Yeah, mine too. He knew anyone who fought in the Civil War that you could name, but couldn't even be bothered to remember his youngest son's birthday. Well, I can't name anyone who ever fought in the Civil War, but I know I'll always remember your birthday. I'll always remember yours as well, Alyssa. Thanks, Emmanuel. Thanks for everything. You make my life complete. I wish I could have told her the same. I wish I could have just kept going and tell her so much more. But she fell asleep in my arms instantly, and it felt nice. Like it was meant to happen all along. I don't want to be anywhere else. I don't want to do anything else. I just want to be with her. And I want it to stay like that way for as long as it possibly can. Am I in love with her? Yeah. I think I'm in love with her. I must not have noticed that I had fallen asleep because I woke up the next morning sitting by the fire pit in the exact same place I was in the night before. Everything still felt nice and dreamy, almost as if I was trapped in time. Hell, I was trapped in time, and I didn't want to leave it anytime soon. The only thing that signified that I was really awake was that what happened last night wasn't just all some dream, was the feeling of Alyssa gently touching my shoulder. Good morning, Emmanuel. Oh, hey. It's like what happened last night was so nice, I almost thought it was a dream at first. Oh, it's real, believe me. I made you some coffee. Oh, thanks. I still couldn't comprehend that this was happening, that in this moment both of us were here together, and despite what was happening in front of me, clear as day, it still felt like a dream. This was all I wanted to do today. I just wanted to stay here by the fire pit with her. It's not like we have anything to do today anyway. This week is our vacation. I can spend the entire day just with her if I wanted to. I could spend the entire week with her. It's not like Wesley would give a single shit after what happened yesterday. And quite honestly, I feel like that doesn't even matter anymore. I feel like she awakened something inside of me. Something feels different inside. It doesn't feel completely empty anymore. It feels warm and welcoming. I want that to stay that way forever. What a great feeling. What a sweet, sweet, powerful feeling. It wasn't that same magical feeling I described having as a kid, but that suddenly didn't matter so much anymore. This felt better. I held on to this rush
for as long as I could, when Alyssa suddenly said something to me that caught me off guard and changed my plans for the day completely.
I thought I would make coffee for you early today. It's going to be a big day, you know. Wesley asked if we could go to the Plainview Mall today, remember?
The mall? Oh shit, I completely forgot about that. Right, the mall. Wesley planned for us to go there this week, but I had been blocking it from my mind even before this. And I heard him mention something about it yesterday, but the argument we had made me forget about it entirely. The reason why I've been avoiding thinking about it is because, well, to put it lightly, I'm not really ready to go back to Plainville's mall at all. I should probably explain this a bit. The mall over here is really nostalgic place for us. It was the mall I knew since I was a kid, and the one that me and Wesley would often hang out during our high school years. A time when things were different. A time when things felt different. For Wesley, it brings back really good memories because of all the great times and all the fun things we did back then. But it's a bit of a different perspective for me. For me, those memories will appear for a moment, but then I'm reminded of the not so good things they would eventually build up to. Things that really weren't great. Like an imaginary rain cloud taking over someone's perfect vision of a sunny day. This is why I can't associate Plainville with myself anymore. This is why I moved. It's just painful for me. I should probably explain that a bit better too. Back in high school, it wasn't just the two of us who were friends. Someone else would tag along with us too. That person being, well, my old girlfriend Abby. It was always the three of us doing something, and in a lot of cases, that something would be visiting this exact same mall. I can't really look at the Plainville Mall anymore without thinking of that. Without thinking of her. And I don't really feel ready to go visit it again for that reason. It doesn't seem like I have a choice though. I don't want to get into another fight with Wesley. And knowing that Alyssa's going, I want to stay by her side. And like I was telling Alyssa last night, I do want to make my life different now. Maybe she's right. Maybe I can start a new era of my life. Maybe I can finally put the past at rest. And now that I have someone like her in my life, what do I have to lose?
Yeah, we're going to the mall. You seem kind of surprised. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I just had kind of a cough. I will gladly go anywhere with you, Alyssa.
I will too, Emmanuel. Always. I hope we have a good time.
Yeah, I hope so too. Screw it, let's go to the mall. I didn't think I would be saying this, but the ride to the mall was actually going well. Surprisingly well. Wesley was in a really good mood, which I didn't fully expect at first because it almost felt unusual for him. It was probably because we were going to visit a landmark of our childhood we hadn't seen in years. We were able to bond over stuff and make jokes that we hadn't in what felt like ages. And honestly, it was nice. It's like I forgot this side of Wesley existed, his fun side. And what made it worth it for me most of all was Alyssa was here too. I had my two best friends with me, and I couldn't have asked for anything more. I couldn't believe it, almost. I couldn't believe that the three of us were actually having a great time together. It started to give me a lot of hope for the future, that we would be able to have more good times like this, that things would be more fun like this from now on. This joyful feeling seemed to last forever at first. Nothing could end this high. I thought to myself, nothing could possibly end this feeling. We were just so happy. But then something happened. Something that I didn't expect.
You know, I always thought it was kind of bleak we had to pass by an entire cemetery just to get here. Is that the same one that caught fire the other day? No, that was a different one. Oh, was this the one that was on the news 10 years ago? The one where that girl was... Alyssa! No! We don't talk about that in front of... Huh?
Well, this was where what happened?
It's nothing, Emmanuel. Nothing important. Just go back to what you were doing.
Why? What's going on? Okay, I said to myself. I just need something to distract me from what I just saw. I just need something that will get that off my mind. That shouldn't be too hard. Yes, a cigarette. That should help calm me down. It's been a while since I've had one of these. Wesley must have the box
there when he emptied his pockets earlier. As I began to light it, an old memory came back to me. One that I hadn't thought about in a long time. One that probably wasn't the best thing to look back on. All the foggy images would insert themselves into my head again, one by one, like an old abandoned film reel ready to spin. As it would all slowly immerse my head, I began to remember again why I don't smoke cigarettes anymore.
What's wrong, sweetie? Did you have a bad dream? I had a dream that Daddy turned into a monster. It's okay, Manny. Daddy is still here. He isn't a monster. He's Daddy. I want Daddy! Daddy can't be here right now. You can see him later. Why? Remember what I told you, Manny? Grandpa died. And when someone dies, it can make people like Daddy very sad. It makes people want to be by themselves sometimes. Why did Grandpa die? He had cancer, sweetie. Sometimes when you smoke cigarettes too much, it can do a lot of unhealthy things to you. And that's what happened to Grandpa. What is Roderick doing practicing so late? I better go check on him. Stay here, sweetie. Bubby, where's Daddy?
I saw him go into the bathroom. And stop calling me that, you crocodile-faced freak. Fuck you, Dad. Remember how I said I don't have too many memories from before I was 5? Well, this is it right here. The earliest memory I have from my life that makes the slightest bit of sense, of when all of this seemed to have started, of when everything with my family seemed to go downhill. I remember some things from before that time too, but not at the same level as this. I can only recall them vaguely, at most. All I really remember about them is that they didn't feel like this. I don't know what it is, but something about that time felt different than everything I remember from after this moment. And part of me wants to say that's because of my dad, that it's his fault all of this happened, that our lives have never been the same since. But then again, how can you put all the blame on one person when you don't have enough pieces to put it all together? The remaining pieces being the stuff I don't remember, that wouldn't be solving it, that wouldn't be solving anything. But at least I would feel some kind of satisfaction from it, a feeling I never get when I think about this stuff. How old was I in this memory exactly? I can't really say for sure, but I'm almost 100% certain it took place right after I had turned 5. Hence why I've always said that thing about not being able to have memories from before I was that age. Anything from before this moment is pretty much a blur to me. This may as well be my very first memory ever. And of all the times in my life I look back upon this memory again, whether it popped into my mind randomly or it was just something I was thinking about in the moment, I would always ask myself the same question. Why did it have to be that? The only thing I really knew for certain after reliving this memory again, after seeing my former girlfriend's grave and feeling nothing but cold, hard shock during these last few minutes, was that I wanted to do something with my miserable existence. Something different than my dad. Something different than the rest of my family. And as I took another smoke from my cigarette, I realized that by doing this, I would just be repeating the same miserable mistakes that they took. The same ones that would follow me for the rest of my life. Like a shadow that once belonged to my dad, but now belongs to me. And I didn't want that. I couldn't become my dad. I moved the cigarette away from my mouth. I didn't want to smoke. I just wanted to throw up. Oh God, I can't do this. Wait, shit. It was still lit. No. Tell me this isn't happening. Tell me I didn't just do that without thinking. Too speechless to even think of the words I was feeling at the moment. I buried my face into my hands, trying to come to terms with what I had just done. The rest of the street and cemetery could catch on fire, and it was going to be my fault. The cemetery that my own girlfriend and person I cared about the most was buried in. Nonetheless, yippee. I didn't know if it not being the first
first time this kind of thing happened made the whole situation better or worse, but either way, it wasn't the absolute last place I wanted to be in right now. As I thought about it even more, I went from panic to just plain mad. Mad at myself, mad that something like this had happened again. I thought about it continuously, my hands feeling my face turn more and more red with anger as I kept them clinging over my eyes. Eventually, it got to the point where I didn't even feel afraid anymore. I just felt done. I put my hands down and lifted my head up, hardly a trace of emotion visible in my eyes. No, I wasn't going to let this happen again. Not this fucking time. Stop the car! Huh? Emmanuel, what's going? I threw a lit cigarette out the window. Everything's gonna burn! As I shouted those words, however, my man began to fill with panic again. What have I done? I noticed that I could feel my heart pounding hard suddenly. My body shook uncontrollably. I felt the air around me tighter and harder to breathe, as if there was less of it. While this was happening, I could only focus on one thing. It's gonna burn, I thought to myself. The cemetery Abby was buried at is going to burn. It's almost as if every good thing that happens to me comes with a disaster whirling towards it. It's almost as if everything I do to make things better ends up crushing me in the end, and if I deserve it. I would ask myself why I did this, but I know I'll never know the answer to that. Interrogating myself in my own mental confinement will only make things worse. It feels as if my smallest initial reflexes want to watch the world burn. My own world, that is. And there's nothing I can do as it takes the wheel and I watch it drive me into the everlasting flames. My body almost felt like it was moving on autopilot as we got out of the car and searched for where I dropped the lit cigarette. I knew well what we were doing and why, and that it was caused by me. But for some reason, I couldn't place that in my brain. I couldn't make sense of it. I couldn't comprehend it. It was just so sudden. I guess it's over now, I thought to myself. We would eventually see the damage this took. Then Wesley would yell at me. I just had to wait, so I did. We probably hadn't even been out to the car for more than a minute, but I didn't matter. Every single second of this would feel like forever. Then I felt Wesley tap me on the shoulder and point down at something. When it occurred to me what really happened, I didn't know whether to feel embarrassed by it or feel sorry that I dragged them into this entire situation to begin with. It got run over by a car's tire, Emmanuel. Did you really think it would reach a further area than that? Oh well, at least there's the park nearby. Takes us to the mall if we keep walking. Come on, Emmanuel, we're almost there anyway. Let's just take the long way. I followed Wesley and Alyssa as we started to walk, although my mind was still too shaken by what happened to fully focus on what we were doing now. They didn't seem to understand why I panicked the way I did, and I knew I wouldn't be able to explain it to them. I didn't know how to. Figuring that it was at least worth it to try to take this off my mind, I looked over at where we were headed. I began to read the park's sign above my head. Hey, I've been here before. Been here many times before. This was the part that was located behind Crossan High School, the high school that both me and Wesley went to. We used to go there every day after school to hang out. I don't remember the last time I stepped onto its grassy surface and looked at it in person, but however long ago it was, I know I would have had to be a different person back then. I forgot about this, the life we used to have. I packed all of that away when we moved to New York. Well, I guess it was less like packing it away and more like burying it down as much as I could, even if it still showed through the top of the pile. The thing is, I was always able to cover it up and act like it didn't exist, because I figured it didn't need to anymore. At least not the parts that hurt. It was in the past, right? As much as what happened back then would impact me, I have a new life now, one that this town wasn't a part of. Unfortunately, Wesley didn't seem to think that the same way I did, and it showed.
Look, Emmanuel, it's that old hill that we would lay on and look up at the sky. We used to do so many things at this park. Remember how we would go here every day? Remember all the good times we used to have?
He seemed overly happy the entire time we were here. So happy that it was almost out of character for him. I would normally love to see Wesley like this, as it's so rare for him nowadays, but seeing him this joyful over something I just couldn't associate with joy anymore was starting to make me a little uncomfortable. When I thought about it this morning, I didn't think I would have any problem with it, but I guess what really started to get to me was the realization that I was going to have to be around this for the rest of the day. I could only hope this wouldn't result in anything bad. My attention was soon diverted from this, however, when Leslie suddenly pointed something out to me.
Hey, Emmanuel, look, it's the tree we always used to sit in front of.
Oh my god. I remembered that tree, everything about it. The moment I looked over at it, a million feelings seemed to hit me at once. Feelings that I hadn't felt in ages. It was so strong at first, I kind of just had to stare at there for a moment and let myself take it all in. I think the last time I felt this way must have been a decade ago, back when things were still shitty, but simpler. Would I go back to that time now? Probably not in a million years. But sometimes there's just a certain feeling you get when you look back at a specific time in your life that feels so distinct and different from everything else. Can't help but wonder what it would be like if you went back to that time again. And it just feels nice within that moment. That's when I had it occur to me why this park felt so familiar at first. Why it really felt familiar. That tree, that spot over there wasn't just where me and Wesley would hang out after school ended. That was where I met Abby for the first time. That was where my life would completely change. Where I am now, who I am now. I wouldn't be that person if it wasn't for that moment in my life. And despite how bad everything else in my life was back then, if I could go back to that time now, just to see her again, I would take that chance in a heartbeat. Because she was worth more than anything else I've ever had since then. You know, I never really talked about how I met Abby, or what life was like with her. I probably should.
Come on, Manny. We gotta go back to school.
You can't go to school without me. School's over.
Yeah, but we forgot to get our report cards.
From last semester. That's a hard pass for me. It's not like my grades will ever surprise me anyway. It's been 16 years and I'm still flunking math.
Alright, fine. Then I'll go ask Principal Struven if I can grab yours for you.
Just like I do every time. What would you do without me? Oh, hey.
Hey, Wesley. Did you see we got an A on our project? Oh, that's awesome. I'm about to go get my report card now. Hey, Manny. I want you to meet my friend Abby. I met her in science class. She's really nice. I think you'll like her. Hi.
Oh. Hi.
I have to go now. See you guys in a minute. My name is Abigail Anderson, but everybody calls me Abby.
That's funny. My name is Emmanuel Heffley, but everybody calls me Manny.
I like Emmanuel.
Does no one call you that at all? Not really. Sometimes I kind of wish they would because I hear the name Manny hollered from my family 24/7. Especially from my dad. It just gets annoying sometimes because whenever I think of my name now, I just think of that. Being called Emmanuel will actually be nice.
Really? I can call you Emmanuel if you like.
Sure. No one has ever actually called me that before. Wow. Would you like me to call you Abigail or just Abby?
You can call me anything you like.
It was from that moment on I knew we would get along well.
So you're not going to go get your report card with Wesley?
Nah, I just don't feel like I need to see my grades. School isn't really my thing, I guess. Don't get me wrong, I like learning, but the system has never been for me. I never liked how anything was forced upon me, or how I never had a choice in what I could do, and I just never get good grades.
I used to not be so good in school either, but now I find myself helping everyone, and I'm at the top of my game now. Maybe I could help you with anything you're struggling at.
Really? No one has ever offered that to me before. You can do that?
I totally can. It's fun for me. What subject would you say is the hardest for you?
Probably math, to be honest.
I can help you with that. Math is easy.
Easy? The last time I found math easy was in preschool. I don't get why it had to change so much. Why can't it still be like how it was when we were learning how to count? Like counting the number of clouds in the sky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
A Five Named Clive.
Aw shit, she said the fucking title. Roll credits. Huh, you know that joke too?
Oh yeah. Who doesn't?
I never met anyone else who said it. I used to say it a lot when I was little and I don't remember where I got it from. Or why I would say it. Or why it was even a joke. That was the strange part about it. It didn't even make sense.
Some things just don't make sense, Emmanuel. That's what makes the joke funny.
I never thought of it that way before. But you're right. How do you know these things, Abby? How are you so smart?
I'm not smart, Emmanuel. I'm myself. And I know you can be yourself too. Because there's only one Emmanuel Heffley. That's you.
No one has ever said anything like that to me before. Seriously. Thank you.
There is no need to thank me, Emmanuel. We're friends now. Giving each other support is what we do.
Yeah. Giving each other support. I like that. Say, do you think we'll still be friends in like a decade from now? I always like to think about that when I meet people.
I don't see why not.
I'm glad I met you, Abby.
Me too, Emmanuel.
Let's stay together for as long as possible. 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 As those words came back to me, they would play in my head repeatedly, almost as if I had just woken up from dozing off in a dream and was now having to process all too familiar reality that in the current moment didn't feel so familiar at all. Part of me almost didn't want to wake up from this. I wanted to go back to where I was before, back to meeting Abby for the first time. So I would feel happy. So I would feel like everything would be okay. I hadn't fully thought about these memories in years, and it was a lot for me to process. It almost didn't feel like reality. It almost didn't feel real. But I knew it was. Nothing else in my mind had ever felt this strong and clear. Man, where did the time go, Wesley? Wesley? I looked over and saw Wesley standing all the way at the other end of the hill, along with Alyssa. I guess I must have been reminiscing about this for so long that I didn't even realize they walked past me. I might as well catch up with them. I looked back at where I was. I almost didn't want to leave the tree from my grade school years. It was too sentimental to me. It felt wrong in a way, like I was abandoning an old friend of mine from a time when things felt more innocent. A time I might not ever get back. But I had to shake that feeling and tell myself that it's just a silly tree, and that I would be a lot worse off leaving the people who were my actual friends, who are probably waiting for me right now and wondering what I was still doing over there. So I stepped away from where I was and started to climb up the top of that hill. It didn't take too long to get up to where they were. The hill was a bit steeper than I remember it being when I was 16, and those words still wouldn't stop repeating in my head, making my thought process foggy the entire time. But it wasn't too bad of a struggle. All it meant was that I needed to wake up, and boy, did what Wesley showed me once I got up there do the job of that.
Hey, Emmanuel, check it out. We can see our old high school from here.
School. That was a whole other story.
It had been a whole weekend since the day I met Abby at the park, and it was now my first day of the new semester. I walked into my first class and promptly sat down to the right of Wesley and Abby. I looked at the schedule I was given to see what class I was in. Math. I hated that subject, but I was happy to see them at least. It was pretty rare for me to be in the same class as someone I knew at all anymore. The teacher hadn't arrived yet, so we had nothing to do for now. I didn't even know who the teacher was yet. It probably didn't matter anyway. They would hate me just the same as the rest of them. With a whole new semester in school starting and now being friends with both Wesley and Abby, I felt both excited and worried. I felt that way every time a new semester started in school, but this time it was for a different reason than usual. In your typical classroom that you set foot in, you have a different variety of students and the types of personalities they have. You have your good students, your quiet students, your talkative students, the lazy ones, the class clowns, and then you have the bad kids. Truth be told, I was one of the bad kids. The thing about being a bad kid is that no one actually wants to be one. They just accept it as who they are over time. Everyone handles school differently, and by the time we're taught another way of how to act and how to behave, we have the old way far too ingrained in our brains to know how to change. Or at least that was the way it was for me. The thing is though, I started to realize around this time that I needed to change too. I needed to change not just who I was in school, but who I was as a person. I needed to change for the better. I was already seen as a bad kid in school, and I'd still seen
seen as that by my dad when I got home. I couldn't be the bad kid forever. Me and Wesley were getting older, and I could tell he was now starting to get impatient with the same antics I had that he used to enjoy from me. Wesley used to be a bad kid too, but now he was starting to do well in school. He was starting to grow up. I wasn't I didn't really know how to act different, but I would try. I was still going to be myself, of course, but I was sure as hell going to try. Abby had just met me, and I didn't want her to get a bad impression of who I was right away. I wanted her to know that I'm not the same person I was when I was younger, and that while I still have a lot of my old traits, I'm not proud of the things I used to do. I didn't want just her to know that either. I wanted everyone to. With that, I felt like this day would be the beginning of a fresh start. To start from scratch again until something was built. I wasn't going to be Manny the problem child anymore. From now on, I would be Emmanuel Heffley, or I would try the hardest I could to be anyway. Our teacher still hadn't arrived yet, so I figured I would goof around and talk to Wesley to pass time. It's not like I would get into any more trouble in a room with a teacher, right? Hey Wesley, you never ended up giving me my report card. I can't give it to you anymore. Principal Struvent told me you have to go get it from him yourself now because it's confidential. But I guess it doesn't matter anyway, since this teacher we have, this class will be giving them out again for whoever wasn't there last week. Confidential? Sure, it is. Remember how Mrs. Craig used to read our report cards in front of the whole class? Oh god, Mrs. Craig. She was the worst. You're lucky you didn't go to Westmore Ford Middle School, Abby. She made our lives a living hell. Man, you quit throwing pencils? They're landing on my head. Oh, sorry. I kind of forgot I was throwing them. How do you not realize you're throwing them? You're literally talking to me and you don't see them falling down? Well, I'm not looking at you, Wesley. I'm looking at the pencils. Forget it. But yeah, I'm glad we're never getting a teacher like her ever again.
It doesn't sound like she was fun. Say, I didn't know you knew how to throw pencils into the ceiling like that, Emmanuel.
Emmanuel? Who's Emmanuel? Oh, it's for a project I'm doing in science class about gravity.
Our classes haven't even started yet, genius.
Oh, who am I kidding? Look, Abby, something I should tell you is that I lie sometimes. I lie to get out of situations, I lie to prevent myself from getting in trouble. But I don't like doing it. I'm not proud of it. It's a habit I didn't realize I was doing until it was too late, and now I can't stop. And I can't stop doing it because, well, I'm not a good student, Abby. I want to be one, but I don't know how to. I don't know if it's possible.
It's totally possible, Emmanuel. There's no need to be hard on yourself. You're not just either good or bad. People are more complex than that. We can't always fit into boxes, and you always have a chance to change. I can help you get better with school if you think it would help. Really? Of course. I would really appreciate that a lot. Wow. I'm actually going to be a good student. I can't believe it. Oh, it looks like our teacher is about to enter the door. Should probably be quiet now. Oh, right. And hopefully that's a step towards becoming a better student.
Mrs. Craig! I knew from that moment I was screwed.
My, what a surprise. If it isn't Manny Heffley, the biggest troublemaker I had to endure, and his little partner in crime, Wesley Stringer. I've been a teacher for 20 years straight, and let me tell you, I've come across a lot of tough situations, but the hardest moment I've ever had during this job was having to teach both of you. You didn't make it easy, you know, but look at you two now. It's been a few years since then. You're not exactly children anymore. You're bigger now and older. You can't exactly get away with the same things you used to do in middle school now, can you? You would get into quite some trouble that would have been there before. What do you think, class? Is that supposed to be a threat or a challenge? What are you doing here, Miss Craig? I couldn't afford to keep teaching at Westmore, so I came here. I haven't taught at Crossland
lesson since my 30s. It's actually quite refreshing in a way. But aren't you an English teacher? There were already enough English teachers at this school. The only position they had to left to teach this is either class or band, and I'm not certainly a music type of person. But now that I know who the students in my class are, I'm starting to think maybe I should have taken that offer instead. We've changed since then, Miss Craig. Yeah, not like that anymore. We're just 12 years old back then. We're grown up now.
We'll see about that. After all, there's only one way to find out.
Oh God, no. Why don't we take a look at your report cards, eh? Let's see how much you've really changed since then. Mrs. Craig, no! There's nothing you can do about it now, children. I'm moving the paper towards my eyeballs. Wesley's is first. Oh, not bad, Wesley. A's and B's in all your classes, including math and English? Good job. I wasn't expecting that from the student who threw rocks at my windows 4 years ago. See? I told you, I'm a different person now. And also, I never even wanted to throw rocks at the windows. I only did it because Manny said he would bet to give me $20 if they broke. He never did give me that money. Well, that's a shame because it took me 2 whole years to get those windows replaced. Only if your foolish young minds would have known any better. Now, Manny, why don't we take a look at your grades? There can't be any harm in that now, can we? Mrs. Craig, don't. Mrs. Teacher, isn't this illegal? If it wasn't legal, would you see me doing this in front of the whole class? Fair point, I guess. Wow, I actually can't believe this. You're failing every class except for PE, and even in that class you have a C-. What do you have to say to that, Manny? Some things don't change, Mrs. Craig. They can, but sometimes they just don't. You know, Manny, I think it's time for you to understand something. Do you know what the difference is between a student like you and a student like Wesley? Wesley wasn't the best student at Westmore, and neither were you. He's made some bad decisions here and there, and he has had some rather questionable influences, arguably counting you. But the difference is, Wesley tries. He works hard to get to where he's at now, and it shows. Have you ever done that? That's what I thought. And will you look at that? Your desk is covered in broken pencils you were trying to get stuck in the ceiling, just the same as you did in my class 4 years ago. It's almost like you haven't grown up at all. Do you have anything to say for yourself? Nothing? That's what I would expect from a student like you, Manny. You'll be sitting right here, Heffley. Well, my morning didn't get any better from there. There I sat in front of Mrs. Craig's classroom, in my own desk, isolated from everyone else's while she rambled on about the rules of her class and what we would be learning. Not that I really cared about any of that, and there I was, stuck listening to her, miserably. It felt hopeless. No matter what I did, I knew that I was stuck in Mrs. Craig's classroom for good, and there wasn't anything I could do about it. And hearing her voice go on and on while being forced to look at her and the board she was writing on did nothing but remind me of that all the more. It wasn't until halfway through her syllabus when I needed to write something down that I realized that I had left all my pencils on the desk I was sitting at before, the one right next to Wesley. Now class, I want you all to take out a piece of paper and write down what I have written on the board here. You're going to need to remember it later on. Mrs. Craig? Yes, Manny? Can I get up real quick to get my pencils from my old desk? I left them all there. I don't trust you getting up on your own. Go ask Wesley if he can hand you one of them. Wesley, can you hand me a pencil from my desk? I left them all there. Oh, yeah, sure, Manny. I'll give you your pencils from your desk. You mean all 27 of them? How do you forget this many pencils? Man, I knew you would be forgetful sometimes, Manny, but this is something else. No wonder why Mrs. Craig doesn't think you've gotten any smarter. Your entire desk could be covered in something and you would still manage to forget to take it with you. Wesley, come on. I don't even want to bicker with you. Just give me a pencil. Oh, sure, Manny. I'll give you a pencil. In fact, I'll give you all your pencils back the same way you gave them to me earlier. Ow! Hey, you take that back. It's on. Fight! 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 Hey everyone! Pencil fight! What? I don't get it. All I asked was for you to give me a pencil and now you're being a complete dick for no reason? You're being forgetful and immature. All I wanted was to do my work without someone flying pencils around like an idiot. You're being immature too. And what's even the problem now? We're not sitting together anymore. I just want to be seen as a good student for once. I want to be seen as a good student too. The only difference is I'm not one. No, you don't get it. I can't be around you when you do stuff like this. This is uncomfortable for me. It's uncomfortable for me too. But you don't understand it. You don't even know why I'm uncomfortable. You don't even know why I'm pissed off. Well, maybe I don't, but I do know why I'm pissed off, and I know why I am too. It's because I'm in this stupid, awful classroom with a stupid, awful teacher I never even wanted to see again.
Manny, Wesley, both of you have detention after school today. It will be in this room. Both of you are to come here once the final bell rings. If you choose not to comply, you will be getting a phone call home. If you choose that, the result of it will not be pretty. Your task will be to get all of the pencils off the floor and out of the ceiling. And you are not allowed to leave until it's done. Do you understand? Good. I will see the two of you at the end of the day. I will certainly make sure that never happens again. This period is about to end and you will be able to go to your other classes soon. But do not forget this by the end of the day. I'll see you after school. And if you're nervous about it, don't worry. It will be just like the old days. See you too soon. Great going, Manny. Look at what you did.
I probably hadn't even been in detention for more than 15 minutes. Yet it already felt like more than a whole hour had gone by. It was like my worst nightmare had come true. Despite it only being the first day, Mrs. Craig's class was no different than how I remembered it being in middle school. And it would most accurately be described in one word: torture. Like always, I just stood in the back of the room refusing to do anything while I watched Wesley get all the pencils out of the ceiling that he was tall enough to reach and pick up each one up off the floor until there weren't any more pencils left in sight at all anymore. Before I knew it, he was able to leave. To be honest, it surprised me in a way. The old Wesley would have never complied to doing something like that just a couple of years ago. Maybe Mrs. Craig was right. Maybe in a way, he really did grow up.
Bye, Mrs. Craig. Thanks for listening and doing what you were told, Wesley. Wesley got to go home early because he listened to me and my directions. You can leave too once you finish cleaning, Manny. Are you going to clean at all, Manny, or are you just going to pretend you're cleaning the room and then proceed to do nothing once I look away? That's what I thought. I can't go home for another 3 hours, so if you choose to do nothing, you'll be stuck with me in detention for the rest of the day. It doesn't have to be this way, Manny, but it's your choice. I'm not the one who chooses for you to do this the hard way. If I just do what she tells me, I can get this over with already. Wow, so why is it that every signal in my brain is telling me to do otherwise? Man, who would have known that being a good student would be so hard? What was that? It's Abby. Abby, I didn't know you were here.
Oh, I just got here. That's probably why you didn't see me. Sorry about the noise.
I guess heavy books can be kind of loud. Oh, it's fine. I'm just glad to see someone here other than Mrs. Craig. Fuck that skinny ass bitch. What are you doing here anyway? This room is basically just for people who have detention. You're too good for that.
I have yearbook club in this room
early in the morning, so at the end of the day I may try to make sure the room is all neat and organized for tomorrow. It's pretty clean today though.
Oh wow. I've always heard of those classes, but I never met anyone who actually had them. Getting up that early sounds impossible for me.
I'd say it's worth it if you're passionate about what goes in the yearbook. For some people, it's really fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hey, I'm sorry about what happened earlier. I guess it's just that it's hard to be a good student when you've never actually been one before.
You don't need to apologize, Emmanuel. I understand it completely.
You do?
Of course I do. Nobody can just change like that overnight. You have to take small steps to be who you want to be. And sometimes it can take a really long time to get there. And there's going to be times where you struggle with it. There's going to be times where you doubt yourself. But that's why you have to remind yourself that you're taking small steps. Because even the smallest of steps will take you somewhere. It's how you make progress. And progress takes time. And it's only your first day. I know you'll get there one day, Emmanuel. I guarantee it. I know you will. Because I can tell that you want to make progress. And when you really want something, you'll find a way to actually get it. Eventually. Just remember that it takes time.
You're right. It does take time. It takes a lot of time. I guess it just feels sometimes like everyone is going a lot faster than me. Like they all have something that I don't. But maybe that just means I'm going at my own pace and I don't need to mind what they're doing. I just have to focus on what I'm doing.
Try not to worry about what other people are doing. Even if they really do all have something that you don't, it just means that you have something else that they don't have. And whatever that something is, it must be really special. Because that would mean no one else has it but you. Don't let other people get in the way of how you think of yourself, Emmanuel. You're one of a kind.
Thank you. I don't know what to say. I don't understand something, Abby. No one has ever believed in me this much before, like, ever. I guess everybody just assumed from the start that I would just fail in life or I would turn out like my brothers or something. You're the first person I met who never made any assumptions like that. But I want to know, why do you have so much hope in me? I only met you 2 days ago, yet you're the most encouraging person I've met ever. Why do you believe in me so much?
Emmanuel, everyone can recognize their flaws as a part of themselves. And some people can recognize them as parts of themselves that aren't good. But it takes a special kind of person to recognize your flaws as something that you can fix and improve. And you've pointed out that you wanted to improve yourself since the start. You never failed at anything, Emmanuel. The people who made those assumptions right away failed you by not giving you a chance to see who you could be. And maybe you did deserve to get detention for making a mess out of the room, but that's not because you failed. That's because those are the rules of the class. What you need isn't more punishment. What you really needed all this time was for someone to believe in you. Everyone deserves that, Emmanuel, and I want to give that to you. I want to give it to you so good, Emmanuel.
Why did I say that? That means a lot, Abby. I really can't express that enough. Thanks. I guess if I need to take small steps in order to improve at who I want to be, I should probably start by cleaning something in here. That's the only reason why I'm still in detention, because I haven't done anything yet. Wesley already picked up all of the pencils. Do you know what I could do?
You can help me put all the books back on the shelves and make sure they're organized. I'm still not done with it yet.
Sure. We spent a half hour making sure all the books were off the floor and back on the shelves where they were supposed to be. It went by faster than I expected, but what surprised me most of all was that it actually felt nice. It felt good to accomplish something while working with someone else. I guess sometimes you never feel motivated to do something until someone encourages you to, and helps you see it as not as a punishment but an effort. Sometimes I still wonder if I would have ever had my perspective on that changed if it wasn't for meeting Abby. Abby told me afterwards that she wanted to pay me back for helping her, and I didn't know what she meant by that. I mean, I've never lost my virginity.
I kept wondering what exactly she was going to do until I saw her walk over to Mrs. Craig's desk a minute later.
Hi, Mrs. Craig. Emmanuel cleaned up the bookshelves and the floor for me, so he can be allowed to leave. I've also noticed he's struggling a lot to pay attention in class. If you want, I can sit next to him and make sure that he's not being disruptive. I feel I could help him. It's worth a try.
Not the worst idea, I suppose. Just because I trust you, I'll put your desk next to his and we can see how it goes. Sitting next to a straight A student might actually help the little miscreant. Just be careful and watch out for if he does anything disobedient. Manny Heffley in a lot of ways can be the devil, but I'll try it just for now. Maybe being stuck in Mrs. Craig's classroom won't be so bad after all. Abby asking to have her desk be put next to mine must have been good timing, because just the next day Mrs. Craig started out her class by announcing that we were all going to have to choose a partner to work with for the rest of the semester. She told us to make sure that we chose wisely because we would be working with this partner doing any group activities and during any important projects that could make up a big part of our grade, including the end of the year final. Her reasoning was that by the end of the year we would know our partner extremely well and be able to work with them on anything. She then announced after this that in order for us to have a chance to get to know our new partner and for her to see where everyone's level is at when it comes to algebra skills, we would all be playing a class Jeopardy game within teams of 2 people each. She also said that it would be counting towards our grade for right now while we're still really early in the semester. This whole grouping up with a partner thing wasn't a big deal to me because before she even announced what we were going to do, I already knew who I was going to be working with. Usually during anything that involves working with someone, I would be teaming up with Wesley, and we would usually just goof off and do our own little fun thing. But I hadn't really been feeling too optimistic around him lately. I was still thinking about how he had been acting like a total jerk to me the other day, and I still didn't feel like I was on the best of terms with him from that. Plus, when I'm around Wesley, I end up getting into more trouble than I already do, and I know how Mrs. Craig starts to act when we're together. She gets angry and punishes us even more in response. Just felt nice to have a break from that. Abby is a good student and Mrs. Craig likes her. I would never get into trouble if she was the only person I could work with. On the other hand though, I wasn't really a big fan of class Jeopardy games. I used to have a teacher named Mr. Huff who always did them whenever he never had any actual work to give us, and they didn't usually go well. Playing Jeopardy in school doesn't really feel anything like how it does on the game show. Teachers try to make it fun by letting you pick our own categories and having each person or team answer at a time, but they don't realize that the things that actually make Jeopardy fun have to do with winning money and being able to challenge yourself in a multitude of subjects against people you don't know. You can't exactly do any of that in a math class. Plus, just the idea of the teacher announcing to the class that we were going to play a game always made everyone suddenly act like they just drank 4 cans of Rowdy Riot. Everyone would become extremely hyper for no reason and barely listen to a single word that was being said to them.
Ooh, I know the answer. X equals 36.
You need to answer that in the form of a question.
You need me to reform the Great Depression? Okay, where do I start?
I don't know, the kids are just really autistic. It didn't help that I absolutely sucked at math and Mr. Huff didn't really like that, since he took his math Jeopardy games very seriously. I would try to answer each question as best as I could, but he always seemed to ask them so fast and give me so little time to respond, and once I finally did get the answer, one of them, he would always end up giving me the same response. I'm sorry, Mr. Heffley, but what is I don't know is not the answer to this question. I guess at one point during one of his games, I ended up getting called on more than usual and must have gave up that answer a little too many times because he eventually got really frustrated and said this to me. The answer to this question is a number. Fortunately, by that point, we were about to have our final Jeopardy question, so I just had to write down one more answer and then the game would end. He didn't look too pleased once he saw what I actually put down though. I ended up getting an F in that class, which I didn't really think was fair, but I guess by then the concept of me getting an F in that class was pretty far from a new one. Hopefully this time playing Jeopardy in a math class would be a better experience, although in a class with Mrs. Craig, that couldn't exactly be a guarantee. Abby did say she would help me, and Mrs. Craig said earlier that she would give us enough time to work together and both choose an answer before we got called on, so at least my hopes were higher this time. I was still a bit nervous. After Mrs. Craig was done explaining to us how the game would work, she gave us 10 minutes to choose our new partner and group up with them. Like I said, I already knew who I was going to work with, so for me that quickly equaled to 10 minutes of doing nothing. I didn't even have to move while everyone else had to switch where their desk would be and essentially rearrange a classroom in the process. Actually, having a chance to relax was honestly kind of nice. What did catch me off guard, however, was when Wesley suddenly approached me and Abby.
Hey guys, do either of you want to be my partner? I don't have anyone to work with.
I had no idea why Wesley was asking me this or even approaching us in the first place, considering how he had treated me just the day before. I was under the impression that he still hated me. Why was he suddenly acting like that didn't happen? Thankfully, Abby put an end to it quick.
I'm sorry, Wesley, but I'm already working with Emmanuel.
But Abby, we always partner up together in our classes. We've been doing that for months now. We get perfect grades together, and I've known Manny for years. I don't want to work with someone I don't know.
We still have all our other classes to work together in, Wesley.
It's just this one that we won't.
It'll be okay.
I mean, I guess so. Guess I'll have to work with someone else then. Wish it could be with you though.
Hello, would you like to be my partner?
Sure, I guess. But why do you have a cone around your neck?
I kept chewing on my arm when I was a baby, so my parents put this on me. Still not allowed to take it off for some reason.
Why?
Do they think you're going to chew off one of your limbs as an adult? I don't really know. I don't question it anymore. It wouldn't be much longer until the actual game began. I was pretty enthusiastic about it first, mostly because this was one of the first times I actually felt hopeful about something I was doing in school. What Mrs. Craig didn't tell us, however, was that each of our teams would be competing against the one who had their desk closest to us, meaning that me and Abby's team would be competing against Wesley's. I didn't have a very good feeling about this initially, because one, Wesley is far better at algebra and math in general than I am, and two, if it turns out that Wesley is still mad at me, then that means he's going to do everything to make sure that I didn't win. I could already imagine him taunting me afterwards about how he brutally massacred me in a math game, and how that means I'll never be as good as him or something. I could only hope that Abby working with me would help make it so our team would be at a similar level score-wise, so I wouldn't look too bad against him. And it turned out that I would find out if this would be the case a lot sooner than I thought, because having the closest desk to the teachers meant that our turn would be first. Mrs. Craig let Wesley choose our first category, so I could only hope that this question wouldn't be excruciatingly impossible to solve, but knowing my own algebra skills, it probably would be anyway. I just did what I figured would be best and started to examine the math problem with Abby. We only had 2 minutes to work on it before we have to give out our answers, so I just hoped that we would at least get something out of this. After only a few seconds of looking at the math problem, however, I remembered how bad at math I actually was and started to lose motivation. That was when Abby stepped in to help.
Oh, this is easy. It's just telling you to combine the like terms.
What does that mean, and why do I have to like the terms?
It means you're just finding what these numbers have in common. See, look at the full equation here. 6x plus 8 minus 3 plus 7x.
I think my brain stopped working after looking at that for 1 second.
It's easier than it looks. See, the numbers that have x's next to them, you just have to add those together and then combine the other two numbers.
You're still having to do so much work though with so many numbers. Why does math require you to do so much? let's forget this boring math stuff. What if we kept these numbers the way they were, and 6x and 7x were just two best friends who had a fun time talking to each other? But then suddenly these randos 8 and -3 got in the way and interrupted their conversation. Sort of like how our dumb teacher got in the way with this stupid Jeopardy game. It's kind of funny because Jeopardy isn't even supposed to give extra time to figure out the question. But it has to be done that way here because we're doing algebra problems, which wouldn't even make sense in Jeopardy. But 8 and -3 don't care about that. They just like to get in the way of our lives and give us extra work because that's just what complicated numbers do.
You actually have a point there, Emmanuel. If 6x and 7x are friends because they're together and have things in common, wouldn't that make 8 and -3 friends with each other too?
Well, I guess.
So that would give us 2 rows of best friends. 6x and 7x both have having an x next to them in common, and 8 and -3 both have having no x next to them in common. And if we're to combine each row of friends together, 6x and 7x would combine to be 13x, and 8 and -3 would combine to be 5. So your answer would be the result of a whole new equation, 13x plus 5.
Hey, that actually makes sense. Why does that actually make sense?
I told you it's easy, Emmanuel. It's just adding numbers.
Okay, your time is up. Let's go to Wesley's team first. What did you get as your answer, Wesley?
Was it 3x plus 11?
That is incorrect. You must have added wrong. What did you get, Manny and Abby? Was it 13x plus 5? Huh, that is actually correct. Good job, Manny. Oh my god, we got it right.
I told you I would help you, Emmanuel, and I promise you're going to realize you're a lot smarter when it comes to math than you thought.
I can't believe I actually feel enthusiastic about math right now. That's never happened before. Let's do this. Montage. Time's up, Wesley. What do you have? Was it 9x minus 1? Incorrect. Manny, was it 9x plus 1? Correct. Now we're solving for x, guys. What did you get? What is x equals 8? Was it x equal 8? Correct. Manny and Abby, was it x equal 8? Also correct. You both get extra points. Was it x equals 12? Correct. What is it? Was it 5/4 and -2? Correct. What is 6.5? Correct! 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 During our final question, I started to anticipate a lot of things, mostly hoping that the answer we put down was right and that we didn't make some unexpected mistake at the last minute. I was also a bit anxious because I couldn't tell that Wesley was feeling during all of this, whether it was towards the game or towards me. He didn't seem to be either happy or upset this whole time. He just seemed neutral, which worried me even more. Maybe he just didn't care about the game. Most people in high school forced to play games like these don't. But I didn't want to let my guard down yet. All I really knew was one thing, which was to keep going. So when Mrs. Craig spoke up when our round ended, I tried to remain calm and stay in the best mindset. Okay, class, our 2 teams in the front row here have both been very close to reaching first place, but their final answer will truly determine where they land. Our time is now up, so let's see what Wesley and his partner got as their answer. It is 6.0. That is incorrect, but good news, guys, since you are currently in first place, one wrong answer won't knock you down too hard. That is, unless Manny and Abby got their answer correct. If they get their answer wrong, your team will indeed win first place. They get it right, they will be the winning team. So let's see what answer they came up with. What is 6.5? That is correct. Congrats, you two. They got the correct answer, meaning that Manny Heffley and Abby Anderson will be in first place. In second place, we have Wesley Stringer and Curtis the Home Kid. Is that really your full name? I forgot my last name. And in third place, we have the Ziango twins. Congratulations, you guys. You will all be getting 100% score. And Manny and Abby's team will be getting extra credit for the rest of the week. Thank you all for behaving well. This is the first time I tried
tried to host a gaming class where people actually listened. It's kind of funny to think about.
I can't believe it. We actually won.
Can you believe this, Abby? We actually got a good score. I've never gotten a good score in math this easily before. Ever. I can't believe this.
See, Emmanuel? You really can become good at things once you understand them step by step. A lot of things will seem complicated and hard when you look at them all together, but they become easier when they're broken down. You begin to understand how they work that way, and you become able to solve them in your head. It works just the same way as doing what I said before, by taking small steps.
Thanks, Abby. I don't know how I would have done this without you.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Abby then did something that I wasn't expecting. She hugged me. If someone told me just a couple weeks ago that I would be having this good of a time in my math class, my least favorite subject being taught by Mrs. Craig, my least favorite teacher, I would have thought that I was dreaming. But now I wanted this to be my reality forever. I truly couldn't believe what I was feeling during that moment. Later after school that day, I went to my usual spot at the park and waited for Abby to be done cleaning Mrs. Craig's room again so she could come by. Abby promised that she would come over here to help me with my homework. While I was waiting for her, Wesley approached me and said that he wanted to talk. I was worried at first that he was going to be mad at me for winning and try to start a fight or something, but instead he did something completely different. He apologized. Hey, I'm sorry I was a jerk to you the other day, Manny. I guess I was just mad about having Mrs. Craig as a teacher and I just wanted to look good in front of her. But I guess that didn't really work at all. I know, I wanted to look good in front of her too, but I never tried to look good in front of someone before, so I didn't understand it. It's scary when someone that you thought was gone from your life suddenly comes back without warning. It makes you want to do something ridiculous just so you can feel like you have some control over it. But now that I'm older, I'm starting to realize Mrs. Craig isn't actually that bad. She isn't as different from as I used to think she was. She just wants to feel like she has some control over her life too, just like how we do. I think you might actually be right. Today was the first day she ever gave me a good score on something. Or the first time anyone ever has. I wouldn't have seen that coming in a million years, especially not from her. I'm sorry about the thing with doing the pencils, by the way. I know I haven't matured that much since middle school and I know it's annoying. I used to feel really bad about it, I still do, but I guess I'm realizing now this is just who I am. And I know I can't change who I am or what my personality is, but I can try to be better and act better. We all can. You're my best friend, Manny. Sure, we can all strive to be better, but I don't want you to change who you are just so you'll look good in front of a teacher and a few students. If you want to be a better student, then you can work on that by understanding the material better and listening to when the teacher speaks. But I don't want you to change your personality, or even your most annoying habits like throwing pencils in the air so they can land on the ceiling. I like you because you're, well, you. And I'm really sorry I was being a dick to you about that. I'll admit you do things that annoy me sometimes, and finding out Mrs. Craig was our teacher yesterday didn't really help with that. I'll admit it made my annoyance worse. But the way I acted about it wasn't right. I started to treat you like you weren't my friend, and I started to act like I was against you, just so our teacher and the class wouldn't see me and think that I was just another troublemaking kid like they think when they see you. So they would think that I was different. But I just ended up making myself look even worse in the process. We're supposed to be together, I'm supposed to be your friend, no matter what. And our friendship is worth more to me than the long run than what someone thinks of us or some stupid grade ever will. I forgive you, Wesley, and I understand how you feel. It was just so in the heat of the moment, and you never feel like you can control the situation when something is in the heat of the moment. But we're not in that moment anymore, and we know better than to fight over something trivial like this now. Our friendship isn't worth fighting over just because of one of us happens to be in a bad mood. Let's agree to not let anything like this happen again. Agree, Manny. I promise I won't let anything like that ever happen again. Not even if we end up risking one of our lives for it. Friends? Friends.
Hey guys, I'm finally done cleaning Mrs. Kirk's classroom for the day.
Hey Abby, hey Abby.
Do you want to do homework under this tree we're standing by? I think we all got the same assignments and this looks like a good spot.
Sure. You know, the three of us actually make really good friends together. I was thinking the same. I have a good feeling about our friendship, you know. I feel like we're going to be best friends forever and nothing can stop it. Nothing will ever stop us from being the closest friends we know.
Let's do this every day from now on.
Let's do this forever. A month would soon go by after that. Me, Wesley, and Abby really would become best friends. We said before that it was what we wanted to be, and that was what we became. And in that moment, it truly felt magical. During the month that we would spend almost every moment of the day with each other, and any minute we weren't together would be spent trying to find a way to meet up with each other again. I don't remember how many things we did in total and how much time we spent with each other completely, but however much it was, it would end up feeling like it had been going on for a lot longer than just one month. It was a really fun time, honestly. The three of us would end up creating some of the best memories we ever made, and I still haven't forgotten a single one of them, and I never will. When I look back at the specific time and remember how the three of us were as friends, I remember it being like this most fun. Do you think we can do something this weekend? Sure.
I'm down. Woo!
Yeah!
Go Wesley!
Good job, bud.
I knew you could do it.
Let's do this every weekend. Yeah. Hey Wesley, look, it sounds just like Mrs. Craig. I guess you're not wrong.
Can I try it?
My brother wanted to get a snake like this once, but my mom would never let him, of course.
Look at the bunny, it's so cute.
Unfortunately, it wouldn't stay like this. As time went on, I would start to do something that I didn't yet realize I was doing. And so would Abby. And by the end of the month, when we finally started to realize that we were doing this and what it was causing, it would already become too late. Oh, hey, I've been looking for you guys forever. Where did you go? Oh, hey Wesley. Abby and I went to go donate blood. Oh, I didn't know you were doing that. That's a big thing. You should have told me. Well, we didn't mean to not tell you, Wesley. We just didn't want to be late. It was important that we didn't miss it. It went pretty well, though. We're not dizzy or anything.
Yeah, we both feel pretty good. Also, it turns out that Emmanuel and I both share the same blood type. Isn't that interesting?
Huh. I guess that is interesting. Well, I'm glad it went well for you, at least. I should probably get some food before lunch ends. Bye, Wesley.
Have a good lunch.
Hey, no offense, guys, but it's been half an hour and I still haven't had my turn yet.
Sorry, Wesley, two-player games tend
To last a while, but it's just as fun watching us, right? Hey, what's the deal? You keep throwing the ball to each other, but not me. Oh, sorry, Wesley. I guess you got distracted. Here, catch. Jeez, I didn't mean to do that. Oh well, I guess you can get a new ball. Hey guys, do you want to go over to the tree and do homework like usual?
I'm sorry, Wesley, but I need to help Emmanuel study for algebra test tomorrow. He's never done that good on any test related to math before, and he's really counting on me to help.
Abby gave me these things called flashcards. Have you heard of them before? They're like these pieces of cardboard and they've got like these numbers and stuff on them. But they help you memorize things so you can do better at tests and in school. It's pretty neat. I only got 8 answers wrong today on the practice quiz, and that wasn't even because I guessed or anything. It was just because I did the math wrong.
Can you believe it? I've been improving so much. Well, I think it's great you're finally taking an interest in math. I'm in your class as well, you know. Would you like me to join you too?
Well, I'd love for you to, but lately, ever since I've been sitting next to Emmanuel, Mrs. Craig keeps on badgering me about how he needs to learn how to focus.
Oh look, it's a flying mustache.
Emmanuel, that's a bird.
Oh, hey again. Hey Wesley. We tried both calling and texting you, but you wouldn't pick up. Yeah, I had to stay after school today to get some missing work done, so my phone was probably on silent. I'm sorry I had to leave you two without any explanation. I know how it feels to miss your friends. But now that I'm here, we can spend some more time at the mall if you want. Don't you two go back inside and I'll follow.
I don't know.
After 7 p.m., this mall can be pretty over the top about unsupervised teenagers coming in. Hey! I swear I was only going to buy a phone case. Yeah, you might have a point there. Do you want to do something else? Anything else? We still have the rest of the night.
I have to get home early today. My brother is coming home from college for a week, and he really wants to see me.
I should probably get home too. My dad still doesn't like me staying out for too long. Oh look, here's the bus. Let's go. Do you know what street we're supposed to stop at? What? Abby, shouldn't we be working on our English homework?
I need to help Emmanuel with his algebra homework first.
I got my homework done early. Wanna play ball? Abby's still helping me with algebra, Wesley. I need to focus, remember? I noticed how the game we're playing requires a third person this time. It's the only game Mrs. Craig is doing this year that will. So would you like me to be your third partner? We can't, Wesley. Mrs. Craig is making us work with Cody Ziengo because she thinks that him always sitting next to his twin is causing double trouble.
That doesn't even make any sense. The Ziangos always get good grades.
Dude, take it up with Mrs. Craig.
I just wish I could work with you guys.
You know I could just work or spend time with anyone else, but you guys are my friends. Nothing can replace that.
You're our friend too, Wesley, but we don't have a choice.
There's always after school, Wesley. Hey.
Right before the last week of the month, Mrs. Craig would end up giving us a big announcement. We're going to be doing our first important project. There were 2 important projects in total we would have to do with our partner. One at the beginning of the year and one at the end of the year. And the one at the beginning of the year was supposed to help prepare us so that when we would have our final project at the end of the year, it wouldn't feel as challenging. How the first project would work was that Mrs. Craig would assign each group of people working a random country, and both of us would have to research how the history of math and algebra came to be in said country. We would then present it to the class on the day it was due. We had 3 weeks in total to do it, and it didn't sound that hard to me, so I decided I would wait until Abby asked me about it later. Something odd I noticed though was that I didn't see Wesley at all after school that day, and I didn't see him the next day either. When I noticed that it hadn't been 2 days and he wasn't anywhere he was usually seen in the park after school, I decided to go ask Abby if she knew what was up.
Hey, Emmanuel.
Hey Abby, have you seen Wesley?
He said goodbye to me earlier. He left to go work on the algebra project with Curtis.
Alright, the project.
Did you forget about the project already, Emmanuel?
No. Well, okay, maybe I did a little, but that doesn't mean I wasn't still thinking about it. I wonder why Wesley didn't say anything to me though.
He was just in a hurry because Curtis takes the bus home, and it has already arrived. He did seem a little bummed out though.
Wesley did? How come?
I think he just wishes he could be doing this with his best friends. Last semester, Wesley did all of his projects with me, and I think he misses that. Now it's you and me doing everything together. I just don't know if he has the same chemistry with Curtis that he does with me and you.
Well, that's Mrs. Craig's fault for only letting us be in groups of 2. And Curtis seems like a nice enough guy, aside from,
The cone?
Oh, no, I meant his weird parents. But regarding this project thing, I'm assuming that means we're working together too?
Yep, and that brings me to a question that I wanted to ask you.
Oh, sure, what's up?
Where do you want
to work on this project?
Well, I mean, this place seems fine as usual.
We need a computer for this project, Emmanuel. We have to go somewhere else.
I've never done that before. I usually get most projects done on my own, or I just don't do them at all. This is totally new to me.
I would say we could go to my house, but my parents won't be home and my brother is planning on throwing some huge party while they're gone. It's going to be impossible to study there. How would you feel about me coming to your house?
My house?
Yeah, but only if you're comfortable with it. I know what it's like to have embarrassing parents and siblings who get in your way. If it's a problem, we can probably go to the library instead or something.
Oh, no, my house is fine. My brother is all moved out a while ago, actually. It's just me now. We would basically not have nothing to worry about. Or at least I don't think we would.
Oh, great. Let's plan out a date to do it then. I don't think we would want to make it too late, so how does this weekend sound? Maybe this Saturday or Sunday if you're free on either of them?
Yeah, Saturday works. So, tomorrow. We'll be meeting up tomorrow then.
That sounds good to me. How do your parents feel with people coming over?
They should be fine with it. Wesley comes over all the time. Well, my mom should be fine with it anyway. I don't know how about my dad, but he does some Civil War study thing on Saturday, so you probably won't even see him.
Okay, that sounds great then. Let me know what your mom thinks of it, and if it goes well, then I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds great. See you tomorrow. I would be lying if I said that I wasn't nervous about the prospect of Abby coming over to my house. It had nothing to do with her, but I just didn't know what my parents would think, or mainly just what my dad would think. For some reason, I just had a strong feeling that he wouldn't like her. My dad still saw me as a troublemaker, so anyone I invited over at all would automatically be labeled as a bad influence on me, even if they were someone as perfect and academically gifted as Abby. And I never actually had a friend over at my house before who wasn't Wesley. If I did, it would have been far too long ago for me to even remember it. How would they react to somebody new? Would they be suspicious over it? Would they treat her differently? Would they treat me differently for inviting her over? Or would everything be fine and they would actually be happy that I'm inviting someone over to do schoolwork and not the same unproductive garbage I usually do? There was only one way to find out. I would have to have her over, and the first step in order to do that would be to ask my mom. So here went nothing. Can I have over a friend tomorrow to help me with homework?
Of course you can, sweetheart.
It looks like I'm in the clear.